Hello, everyone, and welcome to the STiKS Live post Season 3 Finals recap. That was a little bit long. But either way, welcome to the show. Not at our normal time. We normally are at like around Mondays or Tuesdays at like 5 or 4, whatever. But now we're doing a show post an event. Hopefully, if you guys like this idea, you guys can let us know in the chat or in the comments on YouTube or tweet at us as well. And we got a great host here today. Goalie's not going to be here. He's pretty tired, and he's going to just be doing production today. But we got Josh from ESN, and we got Fox, and we also have Tommy as well. We're going to have a great show for you all today. But before we get started into talking about this weekend, solely, we're going to give our introductions. So I'm going to start off with Fox to give his introduction. Then I'm going to go over to Josh and then to Tommy to kind of like, all you guys really have to do is just, give out sponsors, say who you are in the community, all that kind of stuff. So Fox, if you would be so kind to start us off.
What's up, guys? Fox TK here. I'm a director for Team Caliber. I'm an esports caster, and I'm a host of the STiKS Live. Thanks for having me.
Simple and basic. I like it. Josh?
Hey, guys. Team manager of Esports Nation. I also run social media. G Fuel Scuff. Same as the show, guys. Thanks for having me.
I like it. We're doing this pretty quickly. I like the fast ones. Tommy, can you go over 12 seconds?
I'll go over 12 seconds.
Nice.
I'm your resident ginger, Tommy.
Hey,
I'm from the shut up. I'm from the EU.
You said
yes, I'm from the other side of the pond, believe it or not. And yeah, that's pretty much what you need to know about me.
The pond.
The pond.
You guys are so quick. Like, I was hoping this would take up like a couple minutes, and everyone's like, "Hi."
Yeah, but we're devoting the attention to you now.
So do I have to go for a long time, or do I do it for a short time?
5 minutes. We're all gonna go like watch something at the cinema.
I mean, unless you want to just give me a rant about, hey, you guys should check out my stream, my YouTube, my MySpace, everything I got.
Does anyone use MySpace anymore?
What do you mean?
Am I behind? Like, is it the cool thing to switch down to MySpace? Like,
nah, bro, I don't use MySpace.
Oh, all right. Well, either way. What is up, guys? My name is Landon. I'm a YouTuber, streamer every couple months, and I also make YouTube content. I already said YouTube content. Either way, I'm a caster, do a bunch of different stuff in the community, and that's really about it. So before we get into the Season 3 playoffs recap, I do have a question of the week, and it's pretty basic, it's pretty short, and I know everyone wants us to just get in the recap, but I have to. It's my favorite part of the entire episode, and it is, if you could live in one place forever that you've previously been to, what place would you live and why? So you have to have been there. You can't say like, oh, I want to live in, Spain. I don't know how you say Spain. But yeah, you have to have been there before and previously. Which place would you go to and why? If anyone has their answer, raise your hand and I'll call on you first. If not, I will start us off because I already...
Teach.
Okay, Fox, you're it first.
For me, it would be California. One, because every business opportunity in entertainment is either there or New York, and because it's just a beautiful place and I love the environment.
All right. I like it. Anyone else? Oh, I'm going to call people the entire episode.
I would have to definitely go with Cancun. I wouldn't be doing much esports there, but I would scuba dive every day and just sit on the beach. So, can't
Absolutely not. Okay. Tommy, you don't have to raise your hand, I promise.
Okay.
But
sure. I feel like.
All right, Tommy, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with South Portugal. I can't remember the place exactly where we went, but it was on holiday when I was quite young. But it was absolutely amazing, beautiful beaches, beautiful area, really nice climate. Would be somewhere would just be great to wake up and be literally a minute's walk from the beach every day.
You guys have really good picks. I don't think mine really compares as much, but I actually would choose DC. I went there for the recent UMG event, but it's not talking about that. I had gone there a couple times previous, and I love DC. It's not anything like South Portugal or Cancun or anything, but still, it's pretty nice. I haven't been to any place too tropical. I think I've been to Florida. That's really about as tropical as I've gotten, but I would definitely have to go with DC. I just love the city style. I love how it's not major city, but it's also enough where I can get stuff done. Nice opportunities for business, like how Fox said as well. But that would be mine. Also, chat, let us know if you could visit one place that you've already been to for the rest of your life. What place would you choose and why, as well as YouTube? People are already talking about me in the chat, saying that I cursed Epsilon. Well, either way, we have a lot of amazing stuff to talk about. But before we do that, Season 3 recap, kind of talking about this event. It is a 75K tournament. All these teams did walk away with a little bit of money. And now we're going to go over the seedings of the tournaments. Would anyone like to volunteer? You don't have to raise your hand, but anyone like to volunteer to go over the seedings, just like list off who was in what place in the Pro League? Anyone?
I think you got it, Lynn. I think you're capable.
Guys, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. I appreciate everyone letting me carry the load. Either way, in 12th was Team Orbit, 11th TCM, 10th Denial, 9th TK, 8th Rise, 7th Epsilon, 6th Envy, 5th ISO, 4th ON, 3rd Phase, 2nd Elevate, and 1st OpTic Gaming. So when we were coming into this tournament, I have to say, they said it was going to be a best of 7 tournament, or best of 7 format. Did anyone else know that? Because coming into this, I had no idea that it was a best of 7. Did anyone receive news?
They didn't tell us. Because, I mean, even myself and Benson and everybody that was on the ESR show, none of us knew. Even Benson thought it was a best of 5. That was...
we were like,
it wasn't announced until it happened, basically.
I wonder what led them to do that. I'm just curious if I was just going crazy or what. But and I saw another person asking this question as well. I don't remember who answered it, but also for those who were wondering, the top 8 from this event aren't guaranteed next season spots. For that record, a lot of people thought that the top 8 automatically get guaranteed a spot for Black Ops 3. I believe like how they did it in Ghosts was it just gets completely reset. I know a lot of people were asking questions saying like, "Oh my gosh, TK is not going to be the next season." At least if they continue like how it was last time, you don't have to worry as well. But we're going to go over the overall placings from this event. As everyone knows what just went down. FaZe taking first, and coming in second was OpTic Gaming, and third came Epsilon, and fourth was Elevate, 5th through 6th was Denial/ISO, 7th through 8th was ON and Envy, and 9th through 12th was Orbit, TK, TCM, and Rise Nation. Now, before we get into some other stuff, kind of going day by day, the bracket and whatnot, surprises. I know we could all kind of throw out one. I'm going to start off with Josh. Any major surprise that you noticed in the top placings?
Well, I'm just gonna go with the obvious one here. Epsilon.
Yeah.
After the last event, I mean, I didn't expect much from them, to be honest. But they came out. Remy played amazing the whole event. Royalty clutched up numerous times, and they all worked together really well. Parasite surprisingly did decent. He didn't really have too many standout plays. But he was really there, and it looked like he was leading his team, and that's what we need to see out of Parasite and pretty much all the veterans. So, yeah, I'll definitely go with Epsilon.
Agreed. Tommy or Fox, any other surprise? Or you can kind of chime in your own thoughts with that as well.
Epsilon were the clear, outright kind of surprise of the weekend in a good way. I kind of want to say TK. Like, I know they've been a bit inconsistent this year, but after kind of their performance at DC, I honestly did not expect a bottom 4 finish. But then again, in saying that, looking at the bracket, I mean, either way you look at it, if they didn't lose to Rise and went on to play OG, where they, probability would say they'd lose to OG, they would still then play Denial for top 8. So I mean, either way, they would, if they didn't, if they weren't playing Elevate, it would have been Denial probably realistically, and either one of them is a very tough opponent. But yeah, I don't know. I just didn't expect TK to finish where they did, but I guess the way the bracket worked, it was just to be.
Yeah, Fox, anything to add on to, or anything that you noticed that was surprising? It could be good or bad, like I said. I know we kind of mentioned both, but any surprises that you noticed?
I think that a lot of us will immediately jump to Epsilon, performing way better than everybody would have thought. It seems like Epsilon is this team that does a lot of back and forth with their ability. I mean, we saw when they beat OpTic Gaming, and Nagafin was really the huge factor behind that. Then a couple series later, they just came back and started playing horribly, and now they're placing third at the Season 3 playoffs. You got to wonder where this random bit of energy and motivation came from Epsilon for them to become a top 4 team at this tournament. But I want to give a different answer since we will all, I think, will agree Epsilon. I want to go with OpTic Nation, outplacing teams like Envy and TK when, their last several events have been very, very disappointing. And there's been lots of talks of this team just needing to disband altogether. From the place higher than both of those teams, I don't think that any of us would have expected that, especially since at DC, the only team they beat was Orbit. And they lost to 2 AM teams. Even though the AM teams obviously had pros on it, that's just, I think they had a very surprising placement for me. I would not have put them above any of these teams except for maybe Orbit.
They lost to Lethal, is that right? They lost to Lethal?
They lost to Lethal Gaming and they lost to XGN. And they beat Orbit before being knocked out of the tournament.
Oh, they lost to Killa? Oh, man. I'm sure that kill is still reminding me of them of that one. But yeah, I have to agree with a lot of your guys' picks. I'm going to throw in my own. I was definitely surprised with Envy placing 7th through 8th. Would have coming into this tournament, everyone was like, they could place top 3, they could place top 4, placing 7th through 8th.
In the world,
barely even placing the top 8 as well. Not at all what I predicted out of, I guess you say the boys in blue. Thought they would do a lot better. I really like the MVS squad. I'm a big fan of Looney and, Aqua and Octane, the young players for that squad as well. Being in the same position as ON at times can be good, but most of the time it's not. So kind of being in the same position as them, only beating basically one team kind of below you is not a place that you want to be in. So kind of unfortunate for Envy. I do have to agree, with Josh. I know we all kind of agreed. Epsilon, insane, which we'll go over their tournament run as well. Some insane stuff from them all weekend long. It was just like one surprise here, one surprise there. They would just not stop. It was just, I can't even explain how these changes happen. So what we're going to do now, I'm actually going to link everyone the bracket via Kadi Sportspedia. I know a little bit of a shameless plug in the chat. Oh, I have to log in. Crap. There we go. All right, there you guys go. And I will also link it into the Skype. We're just going to kind of go over the bracket. We can kind of just talk about the bracket, talk about our surprises, and kind of just go in order as well. So the first game, well, it wasn't really the first game. I'm just going to go in order of how the bracket looks because I think Denial and Epsilon was the first game. We're just going to go in order. TK and Rise. Coming off, Rise beats them 4-0. I got to say, did anyone predict that? Because I know I for sure had, I think TK winning 4-2. Did anyone here predict a Rise?
No. I gave it to TK, but I didn't take into account that they literally did not practice at all before or after DC. They definitely deserved this loss against Rise. So Rise coming through and 4-0ing them after thinking about that and taking that into account made sense.
I was really impressed as well. I think, did everyone have TK winning? I just gotta ask. Everyone have TK or did everyone have Rise?
I did have TK.
Yeah, TK. Everyone had TK. Goalie, what did you have?
I thought it'd be a lot closer though.
Goalie, did you have TK?
I said TK on the bracket show, but when I actually did my predictions, I put Rise through.
Wow. All right, so you're getting it right no matter what. I see how you work. But 4-0 Rise, I don't think anyone probably would have predicted that unless you're on Rise or if you're like Bomber or something like that. But definitely not a good prediction, I would say, from anyone who was looking at that first game. Rise 4-0ing TK off the start. They later go on to winners round 2, which we'll get to. Next game, ISO versus Orbit, which this I think was the last game in round 1, or one of the last games in winners round 1. And this was like one of the only games that went normal. I was like, oh my gosh, all these things, all these crazy things are happening. Epsilon and Denial, TK and Rise, and ISO and Orbit. Not really a crazy prediction, but I thought the ISO probably would have finished them off a little bit easier than that. 4-3, not a very good start from ISO. And they also had some pretty crazy roster changes, in quotes, which we'll later get to. Maybe roster changes. They might have been a lie. We'll see what happens. But ISO 4-3ing Orbit. They would later go on to play OpTic Nation. Moving on, TCM and Envy. Envy would end up 4-1ing them. Anyone that has surprised anyone at all?
I'm sorry, say that one more time. You kind of cut out.
Nope.
Envy and TCM a surprise at all to anyone? Envy 4-1.
Envy and TCM? Oh, absolutely not. No, definitely not.
I just gotta ask, because I mean, someone could have had a crazy prediction. I saw actually on Kadi Sportspedia's brackets that there was someone who got the entire first 2 rounds in the winners bracket all correct. I think that was true. So I mean, anything could have. Any predictions could have been out there. I'm sure people in the chat are saying,
someone actually predicted that Epsilon would beat Denial. Is that what you're saying?
And then
someone saw that coming.
Someone saw it coming from a long way.
They obviously knew something we didn't.
Dude. All right.
I know. That's why I got to ask, because anything that anyone predicted could have been something.
I think people are just clicking buttons now. I think I'm just hoping for the best.
Oh, there we go. There we are. Yeah, but the last game, Epsilon to Denial. Epsilon 4-2ing Denial. Denial, I put this in my notes. It was like Denial starting off slow again. They lost to TK at DC. I believe that was like game 5, round 11. This time, 4-2 Epsilon, which everyone thought was kind of a fluke. It was an upset. But if this would have been like Denial's or Epsilon's like one of their last games, that would have been your prediction. It would have been like 100% Epsilon over Denial. Still a major surprise. Wolfpack getting to losers bracket pretty early on. So we're going to go ahead and move over to round 2. Starting us off was OpTic Gaming versus Rise. That one would be 4-1. Not a surprise, except if you're that one kid on Cody Sportspedia, you could have maybe predicted something different. But either way, next game, ISO versus OWIN. This was actually a surprise to me. I wasn't sure how which one this way could go. I thought OWIN could be a good team. ISO is also a very good team as well. But 2 Game 7s in a row for ISO. Anyone have anything different besides ISO winning? Because I know I did. I had OWIN winning, actually.
Yeah, I did too. OWIN, surprisingly, once I found out they were playing and saw how they played, I got to talk to a few of them, and they said, we've been scrimming really hard. We're going to come in. And I believe it was Mochilla who actually said we're going to sweep them. And I was shocked when I saw that. I was like, come on, you can't be serious. But, they came out there and, they performed well, but it was just ISO was on another level. They just completely, they took it easily, honestly.
Yeah.
It was a Game 7, but still it just wasn't there.
I didn't expect the ISO ON series to be as close as it was at all. I thought ISO wouldn't have had nearly as much of an issue to where they needed to go all the way to Game 7. I think a lot of people would agree that ON's performance recently has been very disappointing, and as well as ISO. They go into Game 7 against Orbit as well. That's just kind of weird to me to see those scores.
I feel like there's never a wrong prediction with ON unless they're playing like a major top team. 'Cause it's like ON, they place top 4. ON, they place 25th. Like it's like you never know like where ON's going to be at. They can either have a good event or they can have a top 20
they definitely
event.
impressed me this tourney for sure. ON did.
But ON dropping, like we said, in winners round 2, 4-3 over ISO. Next game we had FaZe versus Envy. Coming into this game, I was like, this is going to be a fantastic series. I could see this one easily going to Game 7. FaZe coming out strong, showing how dominant they were and beating Envious 4-1. Did anyone have Envy winning? Anyone have any Envy winning?
I definitely had FaZe winning.
Definitely had FaZe?
Yeah.
Tommy?
Yeah.
I think I had a 4-2 or a 4-3. None of the bracket show because we apparently thought it was best 5s, but I honestly thought I could go to Game 7 just for the fact that I thought Envy's a really good team, and then they just didn't do it for me. I don't know what it was.
There was a lot of stuff this weekend that was just kind of off. Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is Epsilon coming through and just knocking both Denial and Elevate out of the winners bracket, and then OWIN actually putting on a show for us today and placing so well. Well, better than what I thought they would, I should say.
That kind of brings us to our next game, like you said, Epsilon versus Elevate. Once again, I thought Denial versus Elevate matchup, 100%. Now that Epsilon beats Denial, we have Epsilon versus Elevate. Epsilon 4-1s them. Like, it's just like in a row. Like, here we go. We have Denial easily. Elevate even easier. Then we move on to FaZe. I'm just going to go ahead and spoil it. They beat FaZe 4-1. Like, what? I know Tom or Josh was like, it could be the leadership of Parasite. What do you guys think is Epsilon's main like, what makes them such a talented squad at times? Because we saw them at Dallas do very well. They beat OpTic Gaming in a best of 5. Now they're just completely running through teams like it's nothing. I got to ask you guys, what do you think is their main factor? Like, what are they bringing to the table at these 2 particular tournaments that no one can like manage? I guess I could say
wall hacks, 100%.
To be honest, I think
we can't take anything away from Epsilon. They performed great this weekend, and it's just all the practice paying off.
I think a lot of it may be, teams still don't know how to counter it, especially like Royalty, right? He just really kind of broken the scene a little bit ago. He's had a few events now under his belt, but he's one of those players. It's like, I can't ever put my finger on it, and I watch him, and he makes these plays all the time. I'm just like, how did you do that? How do you know they're coming? Again, wall hacks, basically.
I have no words.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. But they perform great, and I really hope they can keep that up going in the Worlds.
Absolutely, which is another thing which we'll be talking about as well. Worlds going to be a main factor. All these teams, kind of their last tournament to kind of get their main land practice before Worlds ends up going on. We're actually going to go down to losers bracket really quickly. I kind of skipped over just because I want to talk about Epsilon. But first game in losers round 2 is Elevate versus TK. 4-2 meant that TK was knocked out very, very early on. They ended up losing to Rise and they ended up losing to Elevate. Pretty good teams, but everyone thought, at least in my opinion, I thought that TK would go a little bit farther than that. Moving on, Envy versus Orbit, 4-0 for Envy. Envy coming out strong after kind of going to that losers bracket. Orbit dropping as well. ON versus TCM. I thought TCM could put up a fight. I was like, ON's a pretty good team. It just kind of depends which ON you're going to get, like I said. And ON ended up 4-2. Then next, we had Rise versus Denial. Denial was just like, I don't know how we're in the losers bracket, but we're not going to lose now. 4-0ing Rise. Any predictions in losers round 2 that you guys didn't see happening? Because I got to say, all of these were pretty spot on, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, these all kind of look like, except for ON beating TCM, I feel like, I don't even think ON's ever beaten TCM on LAN before until now. So that was pretty interesting to me. But at least in the last 2 events that I've looked at, TCM has beaten ON. So I shouldn't say ever, but in the last 2 events I looked at, TCM, in most recent events, TCM definitely has beaten ON. So that was weird to me, but everything else kind of makes sense here. Elevate BTK at DC, and like I said, they haven't been practicing, so it's very likely that we'll just see a repeat of that. Envy beating Orbit 4-0, I don't think anybody's going to argue with that outcome. And Raz Denial being a 4-0 in Denial's favor definitely makes sense as well.
Right. Like you mentioned, I don't think there was a major surprise where everyone was like, oh my gosh, would have never predicted that. Like, I don't think we saw a phase over Epsilon type of deal in losers round 2. But like you said, moving on to round 3, winners, we had OG versus ISO 4-2. Honestly, I thought ISO could pick up a couple maps. They looked pretty good versus Owen and Orbit. Thought they could do the same, but OpTic Gaming way too strong for them, able to take them out 4-2. And then FaZe versus Epsilon, by far the most surprising game of the entire tournament for me. FaZe once again losing to an underdog. Obviously at DC it was Justice who they 3-0'd them. This time it was Epsilon, a little bit of a better team. No offense to Justice. By the way, Big Snacks tweeted me and told me to say that he was the best. So Big Snacks, you're the best. Either way, but Epsilon 4-1-ing FaZe. Okay, so I didn't think that they were going to get here, but after beating Denial and Elevate, did anyone think that Epsilon still had a chance against FaZe, or do you think that they were just going to close it out? Because to be honest, I thought FaZe was going to crush them, like Search and Destroy's not going to happen for Epsilon. And then they just came out, won the first hard point, and they just kept dominating from there. And I know no one probably would have predicted coming to the tournament Epsilon would beat FaZe, but after Denial and Elevate, did you guys have them beating FaZe at all?
Well, after Epsilon beating Denial and Elevate, I definitely knew that they would put up a fight against FaZe, but did not see them 4-1-ing FaZe in any stretch of the imagination. That was a pretty crazy series.
You'd expect to do like, game 6 maybe, but like to blow them out 4-1 and to only drop 1 map was a little bit unexpected. But then again, beating Denial and Elevate round 1 and 2, arguably two teams that are up there as kind of that tier 2 bracket, as people like to call. You definitely would give them a chance, but I think they were just riding on that hype. Just them being Denial and Elevate just goes to past expectations, and then to come out against FaZe and perform the way they did. Nagafen he was on another level. Simple as that. I thought, in my opinion, the Epsilon in terms of the SMG power just was on another level to FaZe. I didn't seem to get the same presence of Zuma and Attach that maybe you get when they play another team. That's right. What I think makes FaZe so lethal, is that Zuma is always in your face. Attach is always getting the kills when you need him to. I just didn't feel that against Epsilon. I don't know if that's because maybe... I don't know. I just felt like they were a different FaZe to what they were and what we saw today.
I can agree with that. I was kind of surprised. Like, after beating Envy, I was like, FaZe, they're looking pretty strong. And I gotta say, I thought, honestly, the Epsilon's run, I thought they were a really good team. They came out really strong. But like what happened at Dallas, I think I casted over their Bravo game, their rematch versus OG, and they looked just as strong. And I don't know why I thought Epsilon was just going to run out of gas. But FaZe proving that they didn't really stand up a fight. Epsilon, a much better team in this particular series in winners round 3, beating them 4-1. And obviously, like I said, OG 4-2ing ISO. Moving on to losers round 3, we had Elevate versus Envy, a phenomenal series. I actually wasn't able to catch a lot of it. I was actually watching OG versus ISO, not realizing that a fantastic match was going on Bravo. Did anyone catch Elevate versus Envy? Because I honestly didn't watch it. I think Goalie was probably watching it for live tuning as probably well as Josh. But did you guys catch that game? Because I honestly didn't watch it at all. Anyone remember that? I know there was a lot of games this weekend. I wouldn't blame anyone.
No one watched it.
Elevate Envy. I think I did, but I'm just not able. Excuse me. I think I'm just not able to remember all of what I saw. I definitely feel like I watched it because I wanted to stop watching OG and ISO.
Right.
I can't recall too much from it.
Goalie, and I know Goalie can kind of like unmute himself. Did you by chance see any of this series? Because I didn't know if there was anything that we should have caught on to. Because it was 4-3, Game 7. Elevate must have barely won. I didn't know, Goalie, did you see anything from that series that you were, could make note of by chance?
I honestly don't remember.
Don't remember? I don't blame you. I was just like...
I'm pretty sure I watched it too, but it was one of those series where it was like nothing really stood out. I don't recall any huge plays or anything really that, would... I don't know. don't think so.
It was a weird matchup. I would have not predicted either of these teams. Well, I mean, I guess you could have, but this matchup is honestly like not fair. Like I hate having these teams in the losers bracket this early on. Like obviously one of these teams are guaranteed to go out 7 through 8. It was really unfortunate for either squad, and it just so happened to be Envy losing to that one. Elevate able to beat them. Moving on, we had Owen versus Denial. Denial 4-0ing Owen, one of the few 4-0s that we actually had of the tournament, and it was just kind of unfortunate for OpTic Nation. Finally getting silenced, not doing a whole lot, but still kind of unfortunate for Owen. And also had some later roster changes, which we'll get into. I see a lot of people talking about it in the chat. We'll get to the roster changes. We'll talk about possible swaps that they could have in place of Mochilla. I just gave it away. But either way.
Losing Moch is a huge cut to their performance. I feel like he's definitely a factor for them in both Hardpoint and S&D. That's going to be rough to try and find someone to replace him.
Someone said that he had like a really bad KD for this event, but regardless
for this event, yeah.
Regardless
but that's just
of that,
this event.
Regardless, he's a good player though. I think he was one of the best on ON, and to lose him is going to be, as Fox says, like it's going to really set them back in terms of not only they've now got to find a suitable fourth or change up the team completely, but also they've got Worlds that's like literally a month away, and it's like they need to get their act together.
That's the problem.
People are saying that ON should get Apathy, which I feel like putting Apathy on any team where you need an aggressive sub is great, but they lost an AR. Like they lost their AR Slayer. That'd be kind of weird unless you have maybe Ricky pick up the AR again. I don't know. It's weird.
But it's like Ricky's an objective.
Ricky's been doing his job as within the OBJ column very well over the past several tournaments. So.
Right. I know, Josh, do you have anything to say? I know you had.
Yeah, that's the problem though. I hate stats so much because it really doesn't tell you I'm sorry, I just do. It doesn't tell you the whole story. It doesn't talk about the objective play. It doesn't talk about the team communication. And honestly, that's what wins events. I'm sorry. Kills are a big part of it, but how the team communicates together.
It doesn't tell you how many times a team throws out an uplink or whatever, or
how they
matter
how they scrim, how they talk online. What their relationships are like in the team. And that's the big thing. And as far as, coming into Worlds, I don't know how much of an impact they're really going to have unless they make some type of massive switch. Changing player play styles to this point in the game is just, I don't know how much of a difference it's really going to make. So like I said, unless they pick up some miraculous player, it's just really not going to make a difference for them, I don't think, anyway.
I can agree. I know a lot of people were like, "Oh my gosh, Nate Shot, can you come back?" And then he tweeted at Miracles or something, which just blew it up. Is like, "You guys are serious? Let me know." Because like you mentioned, I know it's very hard to have a player switch guns, like his actual position from an AR to SMG, or vice versa. But let alone
completely crushes that theory, though. To be fair.
Yeah, but it's like the final event, like the last event that you have. It's like, so I know you've been rocking an SMG for the entire. The Advanced Warfare. Can you just switch? Can you just switch really quickly? It's only at what, $250,000 tournament.
Yeah. Funny thing is, Nate on the OpTic Gaming subreddit, he also responded to someone that was asking about the allegations of him possibly teaming with ON for Worlds, and he said, if they honestly need someone, I don't know if they were serious, I'll definitely do it. That'd be so cool if he joined ON and then wrote it out to a Black Ops 3. That'd be amazing. If he just found that drive to start competing again, that'd be dope. I think it's what we would all want, but we don't know if it's going to happen.
Anything is possible based on games. We can see roster changes. Everything has happened, so I wouldn't put it out of the question if Nate, does decide to join the squad of ON. They definitely need someone.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
I feel like they'd pick up Apathy before they picked up Nate, though. I don't know, man.
I feel like
if they had the option.
Probably.
I feel like Nate's kind of a last resort, but I feel like Owen would kind of relate to a last resort, to be honest. Like, I feel kind of bad for saying that, but it's like, you want to join our squad?
Maybe I'm the only one who.
Yeah, sure. I'll put OpTic in my name.
Right.
I really don't think Nate Shot played that bad this year when he was competing. People give him hate, but honestly, every event I remember, he played really damn good.
I think it's just because all of his teammates are so much better in so many other different things, and that was probably why.
That's what Karma gets hate for, man. It's like, Karma, why aren't you dropping a 1 KD? It's like, sorry, teammates are dropping 40, 50 kills. There's not a whole lot to go around. It's like, kind of difficult to deal with. But I agree, and I have to kind of counter in on that too. Like, a lot of people will just focus on the amount of kills that someone got in a game, and it's like, points were involved with hardpoint. It's not team deathmatch. Who gets the most kills ends up, winning the game. It's who gets in the hardpoint, who's willing to kind of step away from the killing role but get kills that matter. And that also kind of plays into it. Objective players, by far, at least in my opinion, the most, if not one of the most important positions to have on a team when it comes to the objective, because it's how you win the game, to say the least. So what we're going to do really quickly, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we return, we're going to talk about the final bracket for this event, Season 3 playoffs. We have a lot of insane series to talk about. OG versus Epsilon in particular, one of the best games, if not the best series of Advanced Warfare to date. And we'll talk about this right after we come back from, I'm going to say like a minute. I don't know, however long Goalie decides to make this commercial break. So you guys just a second. Boop.
Welcome back. I am Mr. Rostermania. We are here live with the STiKS. Guys, we're going to get more into our Season 3 recap in just a moment. Fox, would you like to take it away?
Sorry, I have something in my eye. I apologize.
You ruined it.
Like, right as Goalie said 3, I was like, oh,
Ruined it.
shoot. Thank you for picking that up, Fox. Would you like to talk about
Yeah,
OG
Lavin's
versus
just
Epsilon?
lost an eye.
I did. I think I might have just lost my right eye. So there we go. Fox, would you like to cover the OG versus Epsilon amazing, fantastic series? Talk about it just a little bit.
Well, Fox, I do appreciate you throwing that to me, but I'd rather you talk about this series. We're all the way to Game 7, but I want to hear your insight on it.
I hate you. I actually hate you. I'm just kidding. No, but I actually have each game score. We can kind of go over game by game, talk about all the series and whatnot. So let's go ahead and get the first game. So OG versus Epsilon, a major match. Obviously, the winner of this game does advance to kind of like the grand. Oh, actually, does advance to the grand final. I know what I'm saying. They do advance to the grand final and whatnot. So a massive game coming into this one. And the first game, Retreat Hardpoint. The amazing analysis from DC was you face OpTic Gaming, it's Retreat Hardpoint. Kind of the same story. OG ends up winning that one 222 to 139. Honestly, I was like, Epsilon's a fantastic team. Up to this point, they have played Denial, they've played Elevate, and they've played FaZe, and they've dominated them all. Retreat Hardpoint, I think they've actually beat them all in Hardpoint, at least in one of the first games. And for them to lose to Retreat Hardpoint to OG, kind of expected, but still a much-needed game for OG if they expected to kind of win the series. Next game. Skyrise Search and Destroy, 6-5. Round 11 came down to the very end. Epsilon ended up clutching that one out. I was on the edge of my seat. I feel kind of bad on a map like Skyrise. I tweeted this out. It's like, be ready for constant snipes and explosions every 4 seconds. I gotta say, I'm not a big fan of Skyrise. Does anyone actually realistically like the map Skyrise? Anyone?
I could criticize a lot about a lot of the maps in this game, but yeah. Skyrise, definitely not a fan of it.
Here's the problem, and I was talking about this earlier. When you have Skyrise, right, obviously it's based on Hi-Rise from Modern Warfare 2. In that game, it's great, because to get to the vantage points that matters, it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. When you have it on this map, you double jump once, and you're to the points where you need to be, and it's really just kind of, it's easy game at that point, you know what I mean? You throw a stun, you blow up a barrel, you get top of the buildings in half a second, and it's like, what's the point of it, you know what I mean? I don't know. The map just doesn't work for competitive play, not on this game.
What the map really does do is really show how much Advanced Warfare's movement has affected how COD has classically been played. It really just highlights the big difference and why and how everything was changed from the very foundation with the exosuits. And I think that the two things, the map and the movement, clash horribly, and it's not something we want to see in competitive play.
Yeah,
we're a bit off topic right now, though.
No. I liked Hi-Rise, to be honest. Like, in Modern Warfare 2, that was one of my favorite maps. It was obviously like a spam fest. If you walk through that first window, you're gonna get sniped by like 5 people at a time. But still,
competitive play is what we're talking about, though.
Oh, I know. I enjoyed Hi-Rise, but like you mentioned, Skyrise, you can basically jump to anything that you want to in about 3 seconds. But either way, still a phenomenal game. Round 11, Epsilon was able to clutch that one out. Moving on to Uplink, Biolab Uplink. This is actually known as one of OpTic's better uplinks. I don't know if it's their best one. People could say it's like, honestly, I feel like people are like, oh, that's their best map. That's their best map for this. Every tournament, it could be something new. I hate to say that. It's not all the time. But, some teams are just really good at maps all throughout the entire tournament. Retreat Hardpoint, for instance. OpTic Gaming's main map. But still, Biolab Uplink went 10-9 in favor of Epsilon. A very close game, 2 games in a row. And then we went over to Retreat Hardpoint. Epsilon currently up 2-1. Detroit Hardpoint 218 to 211. Another respawn, and that's going to be in favor of Epsilon. 3-1 in favor of Epsilon against OG. In every game, has been within like 4 points. Like it's been it's been an insane series. It moves on. I know I'm not giving it justice. If you guys want to watch it, I think I might have the link to it. I'll put it in the chat. It's a 2-hour video, but it is a phenomenal series.
It is worth every second.
The way that I'm describing it, I feel terrible because I'm doing a terrible job, but it is crazy. Moving on, we've had Solar S&D. OpTic has to win the remaining games if they expect to kind of close it out. Solar S&D 6-0. 6-0. OG's like, no, we're not out this early. We're gonna completely dominate you. It's exactly what happened. I think Formal dominated the entire Solar Search and Destroy. Yeah. 6-0 by, like I said, OG. Moved on to Detroit Uplink. 7-4. OG once again dominating. And then we had Game 7. My favorite map. Recovery. Actually, not my favorite map. My favorite map of the entire game so far for this event. Recovery, Search and Destroy. Round 11. OpTic Gaming ended up barely clutching it out. I gotta say, Royalty had an insane, I think it was like 3-piece. Can't remember which round it was, but like there was one kill off to his left. He got that one, and then he jumped up top. I think exoed down and killed someone else. It was fantastic. Either way, OpTic Gaming was able to clutch it up in round 11. Phenomenal series, 4-3 for OG. And I know a lot of people were saying, "Oh my gosh, Epsilon choked," but still, OpTic Gaming able to bring it back. And I gotta say, did any other series compare to this one? Everyone could say the grand finals, and I can kind of agree with that. Best series of the tournament, because I gotta say that this was by far my favorite, my favorite series. It was the perfect way to close out day 2. Did anyone else have any other series they would like to mention or say could be above this one?
Honestly, I would have to definitely go with the Epsilon Phase 1 today. Obviously, the Epsilon OpTic game was amazing, but I love this series today. Epsilon went up 3-0. I was like, okay, it's over, and Phase win 4 straight. Like it was so perfect. I mean, they won. Then when we get into that one, they won a hard point by 20 points. They won a 6-5 S&D. I mean, there was just so many great games and great plays that really they could have been out of the tournament. It would have been a completely different finals.
Yeah, I'd agree. Partly because I didn't get to catch the Epsilon OG. Well, I will be one of those people that watches all 2 hours of the video.
It's worth it.
But
It's worth it.
yeah, that 3-0 like they were down 0-3, like just to come back that in a best of 7, and like as I was just talking about in the break, I think it was the S&D game 5, if I'm not mistaken. I think Epsilon were like 5-2 up or something. I don't know if that was the 5th one or the last one, but the way FaZe composed themselves and brought it all the way back is just insane to think about, because I just don't know how they did it. I don't know how they had any energy in the grand finals, because I would have been napping in between every map. And I don't know how they brought it back against Epsilon, but I think that map 4 was a massive momentum switch. And then from there, they just seemed to be more in control of the series.
I think Epsilon definitely produced the best series. Like either way, you could argue OG's game, FaZe's game, or even the grand finals. But still, Epsilon put on a show. Whether or not they won the games, is yet to be seen. But still, a phenomenal job out of them. And I think that was the first time in a best of 7 that anyone's choked. I wouldn't say choked, but lost an 0-3 series. So FaZe able to do that, coming back 4 straight games. I think, like you said, narrowly game 4. I think they barely won that game. So for them to do that was absolutely phenomenal. A great job there. Taking a look at the bracket, as you guys can kind of see, hopefully, I'm not sure if Gully has it up, but either way, in the final bracket, like we said, OG able to clutch it up 4-3 against Epsilon. FaZe did end up beating Elevate, and FaZe was able to take out Epsilon 4-3, which meant that OpTic Gaming would meet up against FaZe yet again in a grand final. I think in every single major event so far, grand final, it's either been OpTic Gaming, FaZe, or Denial in the grand finals of a tournament. And I think the only time that Denial was in the grand finals was COD Champs. So it's like, people will say it's been a very inconsistent game. Players have been up and down. But when you look at the retrospect, the top teams in the game, it's been 3 teams, let alone 2 teams, except for one tournament, who have been in the grand finals for every single event. Kind of unfortunate, but still a phenomenal series, I have to say. FaZe obviously needed to win 2 best of 7s since they did come from the losers bracket in order to win the entire tournament. And I gotta say, the first best of 7, I can kind of go over the games, but if you just want to hear me talk about FaZe, that's all I really have to do, because they completely dominated OpTic Gaming in the first best of 7. Honestly, looking at that first game, I was like, this is OG's last chance. Like, the first best of 7 to me, looking at it, was this is the actual grand finals. Like, regardless if FaZe or OG wins, whoever wins the first best of 7 is winning the entire tournament, at least in my opinion. I think once OpTic loses a first series, and then they have to immediately play, it's so hard for them to make the comeback. So I don't know if you guys felt the same way or not.
Yeah. I agree. I think I don't personally agree with the way they did the scheduling, how they put the winners bracket final on the Saturday. Me personally, I would have rather seen that on the Sunday because of the fact that OG coming into it basically straight away just played the grand final. I know teams warm up and everything beforehand, but it's not the same as actual proper competition. And for me, I would have rather seen a winners bracket final and done it that way, and got rid of like the losers semi or whatever it was, and just had the winners bracket final, losers bracket final, followed by the grand final. Because then OG at least get to play one series. Well, I know it sounds stupid, but like FaZe momentum is almost quite a massive thing. It's why we see a lot of the time the team that loses in the winners bracket final, a lot of times won't make it to the final because they lose all that momentum and they've got to play a team that's often on a hot streak. And for me, I think it would have worked out better for scheduling wise and just for OG's sake if we saw the winners bracket final on the Sunday as well.
I can kind of see that.
I think OpTic's biggest problem was they never won 2 maps in a row. Right, whenever you look at OpTic games, if they win 2 maps in a row, usually they get themselves going, and then once Scump and Crimsix and Formal warm up, you can't stop them. But they never won 2 maps in a row. They won 1 map in the first series, and they won 1 in the second. They won Parliament uplink, and honestly,
Woo!
you could
It's a great map.
argue any DLC map
that
is fluky and
spawn
anyone
trapping.
could win. You know what I mean? They weren't able to get the second or the S&D in the second series, and that's what killed them. If they won that second S&D on Detroit in the second best of 7, I think we would have seen a completely different end to that game.
I thought honestly them winning that first hardpoint in the second series was massive. I thought that maybe would be a change in momentum because obviously we know how, for the most part, for best of 5s, the team that wins the hardpoint first goes on to win the series. I don't know what the statistic is exactly, but yeah, I thought that may have been a momentum change, but after that, they just seemed to didn't take it forward. And I can completely see where you're coming from with the kind of the 2 maps and then OpTic just dominate. And we obviously didn't see that because they only won 2 maps in the whole 2 best of 7s against FaZe.
That's a good point. I actually didn't think of that. That's true. It's really like Josh mentioned. It's like once OG gets going, it's like, okay, here we go. Like they won 1 map. They won the next one. Good luck. And FaZe was just able to silence them. They did hit the first best of 7 4-1 completely. I got to say, they dominated OG. And OG looked really like, they didn't look like the regular OpTic Gaming that you're used to seeing. I'm not sure if FaZe was just playing out of their minds or if OpTic was just having a little bit of trouble. That'll be, I'm sure we'll see like how the videos, for instance, what OpTic Gaming players can kind of put out on their YouTube and kind of say, oh, it was this reason. Who knows? But still, went to the second best of 7. Like I said, I think honestly, I was like FaZe all the way. They're looking so strong here, but OG could come out strong, and that's exactly what they did, narrowly winning the first BioLab hardpoint, 213 to 209. And I was like, you know what? First hardpoint, massive is going to, it's going to be a massive momentum boost for either team. For the fact that FaZe comes out strong, they're looking just as good as the first best of 7. If OG can respond, it's like, we lost, but we're here to play for the second one. But didn't end up working out. FaZe would win 4 straight maps. Round 11, Detroit S&D. You could argue 1 round away. That could have definitely changed OG's momentum. Winning 2 games in a row, like Josh said, could have been completely different. We later went to comeback uplink. Not OpTic's best uplink either. FaZe is able to clutch that one up. Drift, hardpoint, 250 to 177 in favor of FaZe. And then Skyrise, everyone kind of knew it. After like 2 or 3 rounds, you can kind of see like OpTic was kind of fading, I guess you could say. But FaZe would set a number of records. First of all, coming back from being 0-3 down, and then also the first team to make 2 best of 7 comebacks in a series ever. So that was a phenomenal job out of them. And they also stopped OpTic Gaming's Pro League streak. I think OpTic won the first and second Pro League, and also they won they played over 20 plus maps today. How does a team do that? I don't know if anyone can answer this. This might just be like a rhetorical question. But how in the world do you play 20 maps and still play phenomenal?
When it's your job. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, I was wondering the same thing, because you've heard lots of people make the excuse before of, OpTic had such a long day. I think that specifically that was made at like Dallas. We were like, OpTic had such a long day, that's why they're playing so poorly. But FaZe clearly had the longest day and came back and beat an OpTic that was patiently waiting for them. So I think that's pretty impressive to see. I think another interesting talking point about OpTic, by the way, is something I wanted to bring up, was a lot of people are talking about how, different ways that they're struggling, and people are saying they're falling behind and stuff like that, when they've been consistently placing top 2 for quite some time now. I feel like if you're second to only 1 team at the moment, that, your team's fine. That's just competition. I just wanted to make that point.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
But I mean, realistically, back to the point about being able to play consistently and still do good. When you look at most veteran teams and players, if they really need a clutch up, they could do it. The example that always sticks in my head is if you look back to Black Ops 1, MLG Anaheim. Grand Finals, you have Fear. They go up 4-0 in the series or 4-1. And you have Leverage. It was Scumpy, TP, Aches, and Proof, right? They come back. They win 4 maps straight. Fear gets another map, and they win 2 again. And you look again, all those players, they're veterans. They've been around for a long time. They could win a lot of maps in a row and play fine. Any big event you look at when there is a miraculous comeback, it's usually veteran players. You don't see too many of the young teams coming out there and doing it. And I think that just comes with experience and composure. Because, young players, especially when you're new to LAN, you lose your composure easily and you're done.
It's true.
It's like they know how to handle themselves better at LAN. And it's definitely evident because, I mean, like, as I said, like, if I was FaZe, like, to go through that, like, it's even more kind of commendable because if they were already, say, in the winners bracket final or in the grand finals either or losers bracket final and, they only had to play 2 series and it was best of 5s and stuff like that, then you'd say, congrats, it's really well deserved. But to do it in best of 7 format as well, it just proves how good this team is and how determined they are to win, and it's something that's really going to stimulate growth in Call of Duty, I hope, and hopefully push it forward.
I gotta ask, for future seasons, whether or not who hosts it, we'll talk about it another time. But who, like, for best of 7, do you guys like the best of 7 styles for these, or would you prefer a best of 5? Because after this weekend, coming into, I was like, oh my gosh, best of 7's like, give me a break. This is gonna be forever. I'm a fan of the best of 7 style now. I gotta say, I'm a major fan of the best of 7 style. Not for the fact that it's normal, but it makes for interesting stuff. It makes for interesting gameplay, I gotta say.
That seemed exhausting, is what I'm going to say. I was getting tired watching FaZe play.
As a fan
I
of the
think
game,
best of 7 for like 8 teams worked quite well at X Games. I don't know about 12. I mean, it's not too bad.
Well, it'll normally be 8, but yeah.
They could easily schedule more games on the Sunday, let's be honest. They could have easily started a little bit early and done it that way. There's ways of kind of working around it, it being MLG, but I didn't have too much of a problem with it. I quite liked it. It was, yeah, I don't know. I haven't really got much to add to it. It was, best of 7s. It was enjoyable, I guess.
There wasn't really much to complain about in terms of the format. I feel like best of 5, we still wouldn't really have anything to complain about it. You could just kind of do either one, especially with this small number of teams. It could work.
Right. As a fan of the game, I think it was great, right? And I'm sure Goalie or anyone else who has to do media coverage will agree. Best of 7, you said they're wanting to cry. You don't want to tweet 7 games, you know what I mean? But I think it worked this event. But again, if FaZe wasn't playing so well and Epsilon wasn't playing so well, would we still be sitting here saying, "Oh, it was great"? You know what I mean?
Probably not.
Exactly, and it was the team performance, and that would have been the same with a best of 5. I don't really think that best of 7 is any better than best of 5. I think it's just how the teams are performing at that event.
Kind of add on to your point. I think if we wouldn't have saw the amazing surprises kind of this tournament, like you said, like the FaZes, the Epsilon. We already talked about them. But I ask you guys, what led to some of the surprises? We saw a crazy amount of surprises. Was it the best of 7 style? Or do you guys think it was the DLC maps? You could kind of say both, or if you prefer one over the other.
If it wasn't best of 7, then Epsilon would have beat FaZe straight up, potentially, if you know what I mean.
No, I know what you mean.
I don't know. I think Epsilon were the biggest factor. They obviously, this event really turned up and really surprised a lot of people because, I mean, like, for me, I had them in the bottom 4. I'm not going to lie about it. Honestly, they've been very inconsistent. Obviously, when they had Swanee, they placed, second at Season 3. They went to UMG, I think it was Cali at the time. I can't remember exactly what it was, and placed reasonably well. But apart from that, it's been kind of very up and down and nothing kind of outstanding. And then this event, it all just came together at the right time, and it's they were the team for me that really impacted and meant that the bracket went absolutely chaotic. Because if they weren't there, and say a team like for like was there in their place, who would what we thought of Epsilon was quite average, then it could have been completely different. We wouldn't have maybe seen FaZe in the losers bracket, maybe seen them in the winners bracket final against OG, maybe Denial and Elevate could have matched up. Who knows?
All right. Anyone else have any ideas on why we saw the upsets? I know Epsilon's obviously a good answer, but I guess think it might have been the DLC maps a little bit. Because I gotta say, I've not been watching, and I don't think really anyone's been able to watch the Pro League. But the DLC maps, did that come into play too? Like, I mean, some of these teams aren't necessarily practiced on it. I know Ben was saying, he was like, all these teams were practicing on Sunday because they didn't even know all the strats for the maps. Like they were like kind of re-going over everything together as a team, kind of previous. But Fox, I know you were gonna say something.
I think it's definitely they've had less practice in the DLC maps. They've had ample time and all throughout Season 3 to play. The only problem is that I think this was the first tournament since, relegation, where there were no DLC maps. I mean, where there were DLC maps. None of our Gfinities or our UMGs have had DLC maps, and that's kind of a problem, is that only MLG tournaments have had DLC.
Right.
MES also didn't have it. Nothing had it.
From my understanding, though, the MLG finals won't have DLC either. I'm not 100%, but I've seen
I don't know
that
if that's
around.
true. I haven't seen that before.
Be surprised.
I
know that because I thought it was quite a concern because obviously if it was going to be the case where there was DLC at Worlds, obviously from a European standpoint, I was concerned because like they haven't been playing the DLC like the rest of the world. It's only been North America that have because of MLG. But obviously, from my understanding, Gfini did actually implement it into Season 2 of their Pro League. So I think it's definitely an issue that we've like kind of found with DLC. Obviously, we weren't negative towards DLC being put in if it was done in the right environment and the right manner. But obviously, a problem that has arisen is the fact that a lot of these event holders don't put it in, probably because of maybe the financial kind of aspects of it. And that is a problem because it means you're basically playing two different sets of maps at events. And obviously MLG doesn't, it's not like most events at MLG. It's like completely the opposite because with obviously MES, UMG, and other various LAN event providers, it's more the opposite. So I guess you could argue that. I really guess, especially with MLG, obviously bringing the amount of matches that each team played down after the DDoSing and various other problems that they had, right. You could argue that a lot of teams were underprepared for a lot of these DLC maps.
But as far as DLC at other events like MES and UMG, that comes down to a developer standpoint, really, because I mean, if the developer was, I'm not saying developer doesn't support COD. I don't want to get into this, okay? But if Activision wanted DLC at all LAN events, it wouldn't be too hard for them to get out free codes to the developers to get them on the system, get everything going.
To ask LAN event providers and whatnot to say to them, look, we want DLC at your event, but you've got to pay for every single code for every Xbox. And
it's also
I completely agree because you can guarantee that Activision have helped MLG in providing them with DLC codes and all sorts. So yeah, I totally agree.
It's also unfair to the players though to have them playing, oh, I have to practice DLC for this event this week, but next week doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Right.
Don't touch it. It's whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of really like the competitive integrity is kind of hurt there when we got different rule settings or map rotations at each event. It's kind of annoying to me.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, just out of curiosity, what are 2Ks and 5Ks done by? Are they done by DLC as well?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Which is, I mean, that could also we have all these tournaments, but also they have a little bit of practice on the weekends for those who do play. Because I know some teams don't, but the lazy. Well, no, I'm just kidding. They're not lazy. They play enough COD as it is, but still, a lot of things that could have came into play this weekend, like we said, could have been the best 7 style, or it could have been the DLC maps. Like I know Fox mentioned, I think it was relegation. I know X Games had it, but relegation as well. The last time on LAN that they've played the DLC maps, it's like. I don't want to say it's ridiculous, but you can't really blame the people who ran these events because it's like $15 for maps. The amount of Xboxes that you have, I'm not even going to try to add that up, but it'd be more money than I'd make in a very long time. And I don't want to spend it on maps like Parliament. No offense to Parliament because it's a good map. But still, moving on, our favorite moments from the entire tournament. I got to ask you guys, what moment stood out to you the most? It could be a good moment, could have been a bad moment. You could say a certain play, a certain series, a certain map, whatever you guys would want it to. You could even say a player, to be honest. Your favorite moment from the tournament. If anyone wants to raise their hand, I will not call on you, but you can just go ahead and go. Favorite moment from the Season 3 playoffs, and as well as the chat. The chat would like to put in their favorite moments of the tournament as well. I would love to see that. So if anyone would like to start us off by giving their best moment.
How about Zuma in his interview completely just pooping all over Skyrise. He's like, yeah, I think it's a pretty horrible map.
Yeah.
I lost it.
Developers are sitting there like, no, cut it off, cut it off.
Xbox guys and Activision guys and players are probably like, oh, is that what you think?
You think they're watching the event? Let's just be honest. Like,
I mean, at NA regionals, there were Xbox and Activision guys all over.
yeah.
You know?
But again, that was for champs. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah, I get that.
True.
That is different for sure.
So
But still
Fox's favorite
sponsors.
moment was
Yeah, it's probably my
Zuma.
favorite.
All
Zuma
right, I can get
taking
along
the
with it.
initiative.
He spoke.
I'll go, I guess, gameplay wise. I couldn't even tell you who it was against. I watched so many games today with Epsilon.
Right.
Epsilon was in a match on Riot S&D. They had the bomb down, and I'm almost positive it was Nagafin. He jumped up,
Yeah.
killed one, got another in his sights right away, slammed on him, bomb defused, he slams down with his exo, and literally if there was half a second more, he would have killed Scump, I want to say, defusing the bomb. And honestly, it was probably the craziest thing I've ever seen, because I don't like exos, but if he hit that exo kill, that would have been so damn awesome.
Oh, dude, speaking of an EXO coming into play, how can we all forget the 207, 206, I think it was, Solar Hardpoint map between FaZe
208,
and
yeah,
OG?
You
208
might-
to 207.
You might have just taken my favorite moment. Thank you. Folks.
Yeah, dude,
I'm just
I think it
kidding.
was,
I'm just
I want to
kidding.
say it was attached that came into the hill at the very
I
last
think it
second.
was.
He was in there for maybe half a second,
Nothing.
and that won them the game, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's so crazy to see.
That was, yeah. I don't even know how to describe that, but Exo's OP. Let's just say that for sure. But Tommy, your favorite moment from the tournament?
I'm gonna go with a bit of a fail. I think if I remember correctly, it was yesterday. It was ISO versus OpTic Gaming on Parliament. Silly, I think if I'm not mistaken, he missed not one, but two chances to dunk in uplink. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened, but he was like, okay, you know,
He was
easy
just
easy
short.
2-pointer, and then he gets back up and he's like, no, okay, I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna go for a third one. And by that point, they were like, now we're gonna kill you at this point and just make you look stupid. And Silly, get it?
That was hilarious.
It's all right.
Famous joke.
Good one there, Tommy. I like
That would have
All
been
right, moving on.
Oh, poor Tommy. I feel bad. Tommy,
I'm
what
gonna
time
leave
is
it
it where you are?
It's 1:30.
Oh God, I feel.
What is that? What?
1:30. 1:30.
It's 1:30
Jesus,
in the
man.
morning, Fox. For
It's
you
half
guys
one,
in
Fox.
America
Come
who
on.
don't
I don't know
understand
why I
this
hate when people
what
tell
is-
time like that. Like, I understand it, but it just drives me crazy. Like, I don't know.
Oh, I could say so much about the American language, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna say it. I'm out.
What?
No,
Okay,
this
we're
is
throwing
perfect
shots.
timing. Let's do this. Everyone in the chat wants to hear it.
Let's go, Tommy. What is some of your
Oh,
pet
gosh.
peeves about the American?
I
Yes,
love
please, Tommy. Generalize an entire country of people for us.
No, I love Americans. I've got nothing bad to say against them.
Oh wow.
Next
Like,
topic, please.
You're one of those
Very
kids who
good.
talks online. You're like, oh my
Next
gosh, you
topic.
suck so bad. Hey Karma, will you sign my jersey, please? Like, it's just like,
No, when Neslo said that,
Oh
on
my
the show,
God,
he was like, I'm probably signing some kid that's about to DDoS me tomorrow. Like, dude, I remember I was supposed to get beat up at Dallas. That was always interesting.
He's
It's
like
like
asking
tweet
them
him,
their
I
Twitters.
hate you, and then see like,
Dude, the internet is people are just reckless on the internet, man.
Yeah.
Crazy.
People are incredibly reckless, much like Mr. Tommy over here, aka Scump. But favorite moment from the tournament would I have a couple. I'm not gonna lie. Since I kind of prepared this, I gotta say my favorite moments. I'm gonna list off a couple. It wasn't my favorite, but it was kind of a cool moment that no one brought up. Bose's 1v4, I think it was on Compound. That was kind of cool. Bose got kind of hype off of that one. Favorite player to watch was definitely Nagafin. You could list the 1v3s, the 1v4s, the defuse he had. The amount of just insane play to watch Nagafin was a phenomenal thing. It definitely led to Epsilon's play. Clayster's stop. Did anyone see this on? I don't know. I think it might have been comeback uplink. I can't remember which uplink it was, but I know it was versus Denial. Someone's getting ready to go for a last-second shot. I think Clayster barely stops it, and then runs out, and they end up winning the game. I absolutely loved that play. It was insane. I was like, oh my gosh, Clay, as I normally tweet after every highlight in a game, but it was insane. I gotta say, I loved that stop from Clayster. And my favorite moment, and this was more of a player's reaction, was Parasite. I think it might have been Detroit. Whenever there was like a stun going on Was it Karma? I think it might have been Karma. Whenever it's Epsilon versus OG, and I think
do you
was it
remember
Clay?
though? What was
I can't
it?
remember.
Parasite versus Clay, S&D Detroit.
Yeah, what was that? It was that, and then he
got the
stuns
bomb
him.
down, and he straight away stunned because he knew instantly he'd be on him. And then he ran out of ammo, and he's there in the corner like, what do I do? And then I think
It was Clay.
he ended up I think Clay getting the kill. I think
Parasite got the kill.
Oh, it was Parasite.
It was super awkward because it was like
Yeah.
I kept thinking it was Karma, but it was Clay. Like they were looking at each other. Clayster runs out of ammo, but like they're shooting at each other for like a good 10 seconds while they're both stunned. Parasite kills him and then defuses the bomb.
Parasite,
it was hilarious.
Parasite has just robbed Clayster's shop and he's just leaving, and then they catch each other in the alleyway or something stupid.
I think he robbed his shop.
The best player reaction for me was during the finals, first map of it in the first best of 7. FaZe wins the map and they show a camera at Clayster, and he's going like trying to figure out how many more maps he needs to win with his fingers. He's like trying to count, and he like I don't know what he was doing, but he was trying to say how many more maps he needs to win. And he couldn't get it figured out. I don't know, man. But I was dying. It was great. It was a good event.
Having Clayster on your team is like an automatic, like amazing thing to have because it's like the motivation that he brings. Like they have to win. At least 8 maps versus OG. Obviously, they play a little bit more, and for him to just like count down, like we have this map left to win. We have 3 maps left to win. We have 2 maps left to win, and then search and destroy, like 2 more maps, 1 more map left. Like the amount of motivation that you would get from a player like Clayster, like his value doesn't come from just Call of Duty. It comes from like his leadership, which I absolutely love. Which will kind of lead us to our tournament MVPs. I'm gonna go and say mine. Definitely was either Clayster from the winning team, did a lot, and obviously the slang, and also in the leadership role. And I got to say Nagafin from Epsilon, phenomenal player. There's a lot of players that you could argue, but Nagafin's constant dominant play. I always say he's the main factor when Epsilon does well, and he's the main key to their success. So for me, the tournament MVPs were Nagafin and Clayster. Who were your guys' MVP from the Season 3 playoffs? Anyone who wants to, kind of volunteer themselves is able to get.
I want to try and avoid the usual answer. I usually give a player on OG because hello, I mean, there's lots to choose from in OG. That could be the MVP for any tournament they've played in. You already said, who did you say? You said Nagafin.
I kind of argue like Clayster or Nagafin, kind of like that.
Yeah, you could definitely give Clayster, but I want to go with Parasite. Obviously, he's not on the winning team. You know, FaZe came through, and all 4 players were terrific, right? But I feel like Parasite joining the team is what really turned these guys around to their performance this weekend.
I didn't see that. So, like, you think his leadership, or just like, because I know they always ask him, it's like Parasite finally found a team that listens to him. It's like, whatever. You can take that as you will. But
Parasite's going to talk and run his mouth on whatever team he's on, and it's like, I guess that's obviously what he brings to the table right now is he teaches, so to speak, even though I'm sure these guys know how to play the game. Parasite is definitely a big factor to their success.
I like it. Tommy or Josh, your MVPs from the tournament?
If I can go next, I'm going to go with Attach, more because of the fact that I think his performance kind of from Friday and Saturday really kind of elevated on Sunday. And I think he was maybe not always, he's one of those players that's like, he's not always in the limelight and kind of the casters always talking about him, but he just kind of gets on and does the work and gets them kills, like Josh mentioned about like statistics don't tell the whole story, and I think that sums up Attach. He'll do a lot for the team that goes unrecognized because of the way the statistics and the way the scoreboard works in this game, and that was why for me he was probably MVP. I mean, as you said, there's loads of other players, but I don't want to kind of replicate what you guys have said.
Right, I know what you mean.
As far as player MVP go, I'm going to have to go with Royalty, right? He made a lot of huge plays this weekend, and obviously a lot of players on Epsilon did great, but Nagafin, he's a little bit more known. Parasite, obviously, is the world champion. Almost everyone in COD knows who Parasite is. But Royalty is a little bit of a newer player, and not a newer player in the scene, but a newer player in the pro scene. So fans may not know what to expect from him, and that's why I'm going to go with him for that one. And my second MVP is definitely going to be Chance. Because he started this morning, man. I felt so bad for the guy, but he was still going through. And
I did the same thing at I did the same thing at Niagara, and let me tell you, it is awful, especially because there were 2 casters in Niagara, me and Tim. Our voices were gone day 1. We went through the entire weekend of casting with no voice and just soreness, just red, harsh, awful. It's not fun.
You need to talk constantly. It's like your job, but it's like I can't talk. Like, you know, definitely a problem. I agree with the MVP for Chance as well. Hashtag. Hopefully Chance as well. I don't know what you'd give the hashtag. I was trying to think of a hashtag and I just completely ruined it. But you know,
as far as
prayers for
MVPs,
Chance.
I think a lot of us can easily choose Epsilon, who really turned up as a squad this entire weekend. Even though I'm sure there's lots of different options on the OpTic Gaming and the FaZe rosters, I think we're just trying to all stray away from picking the same people.
Right. It's kind of hard when you have two amazing teams who are actual teams. Like, it's like you don't have one player who necessarily completely stands out. It's like they all go off at different times. So it's like, oh, I could pick, Formal from these amount of maps, or I could choose Scum from these amount of maps,
You
or
could easily
Clayster, or
choose
Zuma.
like Enable as
Low
MVP
hanging
as
fruit.
well.
Slow hanging fruit.
Right. And I mean, you could, for instance, you could say the Search and Destroys, Zuma, 100%. But hard points, you could say Attach, like Tommy said. I think not Zuma's, but Attach's performance Friday and Saturday compared to Sunday, complete turnaround. He definitely made a lot of the clutch plays, which helped them kind of close out the series. But I think I'm gonna ask you guys one last question before we head to commercial break, and we'll kind of address the roster changes because there actually were some legitimate ones that happened this weekend. But to kind of close out the DC talk, the season 3 playoffs talk, viewership. I don't think that we got over 70K today, but every other day we were around the 10 to I think 20K mark was as high as we got on Saturday. It might have been a little bit higher. I could be completely wrong.
30K.
But viewership, why was it so low? Is it just the end of AW? And I gotta say, kind of answering my own question here, I think the reason why viewership was so low is because we're watching the playoffs to a season that no one watched. We're watching the playoffs to a season that no one could watch due to DDoSing for the most part.
I'd like to start this one off, okay? Because I could bitch about viewership all day, right?
Right.
Go for it.
I'm gonna blame yeah, alright. I blame a lot of it, honestly, on the event hosts because of this, right? They spend a lot of money on marketing. MLG spends a bunch on Twitter ads and Facebook ads and all this stuff, okay? COD players are starting to really get big on YouTube. I mean, obviously, some of them already were. Instead of spending all that money on there, have the players invest a small amount to these players, have a nice production video made like they already have, and have the players uploaded on YouTube. It's just a start, right? When all these players' fans finally see, okay, there's an event this weekend, especially OpTic fans. All right, Scump's playing this weekend. I want to tune in and see my boy Scumper Jumper. You know what I mean? People are going to start watching. Obviously, they upload videos saying, UMG this weekend or MLG this weekend, but they don't put information on there about the stream. They don't exactly say who's there. They don't mention the prize pool too much. If all this information's in a nice video together, put out there, I think it would help viewership a lot, especially going forward into Black Ops 3. Just my opinion, though.
I never heard that idea mentioned. I like that idea, though. Yeah.
That's a good idea, but I think I'm agreeing with you, by the way. I think that there's a lot of different reasons why the viewership was so low, and really, it's the same issues every single event, at least for the major ones. It's that people are fans of the players and not the game. People don't enjoy Advanced Warfare. We can say, worst part is about all this, people will say that, MLG Season 3 playoffs had 65K people watching, when they're disregarding the first 2 entire days of the tournament that were always around 10 to 25K the entire time. Heroes of the Storm had a consistent 40K throughout this entire weekend. And I saw Slasher on Twitter, Slasher not Slasher on Denial, Slasher, talking about how CSGO and COD had the best viewership this whole weekend, when he had tweeted that literally just after we hit 65K, and it was only because OpTic was playing. I think people are more passionate about the players that they enjoy than they are the competition in the game itself, because when we had intense series going on between Denial and FaZe and such, our numbers weren't anything like this. And I think it's obviously the same stuff every event. It's because we're not on Twitch. As much as I love MLG TV, and it's it's a great platform, Twitch is obviously going to have a broader audience. There's a bunch of different factors, and you can't just blame it on one thing.
I was kind of surprised though for the FaZe Epsilon game. There was a lot of viewers. There was probably like 49K for a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously FaZe has a good fan base, but the rest of the FaZe games that weekend were nowhere near. But I think it had a lot to do with, everyone in the COD scene was talking about how well Epsilon was playing. Everyone obviously wants to see FaZe. So when you have those big teams facing off, normally the viewership is good. But it was actually a lot higher for that game than I would have expected based on, prior games this weekend.
Sorry, I was checking something really quickly, but I completely agree with what you guys are saying, because it's like we look at our viewership and we're like, why aren't? And I think this kind of all, I don't know what Fox kind of said, kind of based, not was based, but it kind of was brought up by Marky B's tweet, which Gully kind of like, which I saw on Twitter, but Gully also kind of linked us, which was, I believe Denal CEO was tweeting out, he's like, FaZe versus Denal main stage series is tied up and we have 22K viewers. Like, what's going on here? And Marky B was like, all of our viewership is a fan of the players. It's not a fan of the game. That's the issue. And I completely agree with what Fox and also what Marky B kind of said, because it's like, I get excited for teams that are playing each other. I'm not getting excited because, oh my gosh, we're playing on my favorite map. I'm playing on a game where, oh, I can learn strats from this player. It's like I'm watching a game that I don't enjoy, but I'm watching it because of previous experiences that I've had with COD and because of the players who are playing it. Like I know the past of some of these guys. Like I feel like I know them personally. Yet I'm watching a game that's not as entertaining, and I kind of miss the older, like Black Ops 2 type of era.
That's most
before.
of. Sorry to cut you off. That's most of
fine.
Call of Duty and Halo, though, especially because it's like, you know, when you look at a game like Counter-Strike or League of Legends, right? Let's take League of Legends. I know a lot of people in the chat probably know CS more, but you know, whatever. When you watch a game, the players are building differently for their champions. You could have a million different builds, which leads in different strategies and countering other champions. And you could watch 150 different champions being played. And then you look at CS and, you know, you have the strategy of eco rounds and buying and you know, not buying and throwing mollies and where to. And it's a whole different environment to COD. Obviously, there's strategic parts in Call of Duty, but realistically, the viewer base or even people outside of the scene look at it as, oh, they're shooting a gun. How hard is it? You know what I mean?
Right.
And as a person who's been playing COD for a while, it kind of is that simple, in all honesty. I'm not a pro player. I'm nowhere near. But it's not, you know, insanely hard to pick up Call of Duty and learn how to play Call of Duty at a top level compared to those games, in my opinion, anyway.
And I think to kind of like agree with your point and kind of like lead that on a little bit, I always think the reason why I enjoyed, and I think Essen, or I know that's like one of Tommy's friends, made a really good point in the chat. The storylines that were in Ghosts kind of saved me, I guess you could say, from wanting to watch that, because it was like, can OpTic win a game? Can EG stay together? Like, can they build that bond and remain the same team? I feel like the reason why people kind of enjoyed Ghosts more than Advanced Warfare, including myself, was because of the amount of stuff that actually happened. Like the amount of back storylines which like if you were following the YouTubes, the Twitter at the time, you were enjoying it way more because you knew the history behind what's happening rather than shooting guns, getting on maps, or getting on hills and or not hills then, but nomination flags and stuff. So I think honestly, kind of leading into your point with people just shooting each other, there's not much more than that, to be honest. It's just the storylines behind it. This year, how many titles can OpTic win? It's just like, you know, back and forth. And because people like OpTic, it's like it's kind of hard to debate. It's like I'm happy OpTic's win. Like if I'm a regular fan, I'm happy OpTic's winning, but I'm just gonna watch them win, and I don't have to watch it to see them win. Obviously, it wasn't the case this weekend, but they've won what 8 already. So it's like, you know, they've won enough for me. I'm okay with this type deal.
As far as I go, and I think a lot of people will agree, I like watching players when they're coming up, right? To this day, I'll watch a nade shot video here or there. I'll watch a scump video. But I liked watching their content 2-3 years ago when they were still on the come up and when they were still, you know, figuring out content ideas and whatnot. Because that's always when it's fun, you know what I mean? They're still learning how to edit videos properly and they make mistakes in it. And, you know, it's so enjoyable to see people rise up compared to, you know, they're at their top and they're still getting bigger. I like watching, you know, upsets. I like watching some of the younger players really moving up and, you know, Slack creating content, and Nameless's skits recently on YouTube have been hysterical. You know, I like watching that kind of stuff too and seeing those players. And I mean, there's some of it right now, but again, as far as storylines go, it's a little bit, I don't want to say not where it was last year or even the year before, but it's a little bit slower in my opinion.
Yeah, because people aren't really enjoying the game. That's what that's the main issue if we're talking about viewership and stuff like that. Is just people aren't really enjoying the game. They enjoy the people that are playing it, but the competition so much on the game, it's been very stale and it doesn't have any signs of changing. So you kind of know what to expect unless, you know, a team randomly turns up like Epsilon.
Exactly. We're kind of like basing on the hopes of something crazy happening. Like, to be honest, if Epsilon wouldn't have made crazy changes, if FaZe wouldn't have done, you know, the crazy stuff in the grand finals, this wouldn't have been another event that probably no one would remember. But based on what storylines were made this weekend, that's kind of like how we related off of. But
Epsilon
I think
were the storyline.
yeah, that's what I mean.
They were what made it really entertaining for me. I was like, that phase game against them, I was like, this is really entertaining. They've just beat Denial and Elevate, 2 top-tier teams. Arguably, you could put them in your top 4 predictions. How are they going to now fare against a top 2?
That's what I mean. Yeah. It's just like, I feel like in the past, it was, we have all these things that are coming up, all these storylines. It was Epsilon. Normally, we just have the same things in like different orders, is what I was kind of like pointing out. But I agree with you. I think the main thing this event was definitely Epsilon, and they kind of like made this event in a way, if that makes any sense. So I think we're going to head to a commercial break. When we return, we're going to talk about some of the roster changes that could happen, the changes that have happened, and some of the things that we could see, some of the new rosters that we could see heading into Worlds, because it's going to be an insane event full with a bunch of different esports, which we'll get into on the other side of 60 seconds. Boop, boop. Beep. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Josh has the perfect timing of anyone that I've ever met. And we're back from the commercial break, here to talk about some roster changes for the fact that I believe Burns also just tweeted out, and it begins Rostermania. The pre-Worlds changes are going down. I know me and Tommy and Fox are going to have a lot of work to do with the amount of YouTube content that we're going to be uploading, hopefully with roster changes. You're going to take a week off?
Yeah.
Really?
Can't wait to have Sony Vegas crash on me 1,000 times in the next few days. I'm so excited.
Bro, that is the most. I had a 22-minute video, and for some reason it normally saves, but it didn't. It sucked. Either way, let's get into roster changes. So the first thing that happens, as soon as ON loses, I'm going to say like maybe an hour went by after they lost. Mochila says, I'm a free agent. It wasn't working for this team, which I can kind of agree with. Either way, teams took it inconsistent. He went on to talk about a couple other things, which we're not going to get into, but still said he is a free agent. OpTic Nation's regarded as their best player, kind of, is now gone, and they're looking for one for the biggest event of, well, I guess it's kind of like the second biggest event of the year, but you can kind of argue it's like one of the biggest. Either way, one of the biggest events of the year. OpTic Nation is looking for one, and kind of what Fox said. People are saying, oh, they could have different players do different things, but still, a bow player. They need a bow player. Anyone immediately pop into your mind besides Nadeshot who could possibly fill that role for you guys?
Big timer. I just wanted to get out of it.
With that, I think I'm going to leave.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I'm out of here. Peace! As much as I would love to see that. No offense. Yeah. I would love to see that. I got to say, I think the first thing that popped into my head, and a lot of people were talking...
Swanee. It's going to happen.
I don't think it's...
Is that what you were going to say?
I was going to say... No, I was going to say that. But I was thinking, like, he was one of the second people in my head. Did Vitality win DreamHack London?
They did.
And dominating, like, they came back from 2 best of 5s, I think.
I think Swanee's better off on Vitality than on...
See, I can kind of agree. I can 100% agree with that. You have... Okay, and I know me and Goalie kind of... I'm not going to say exactly what Goalie's comment was, but I do agree with what he said. It's a little bit different from EU to NA. But when you have a very good team who is going to be at Worlds, for instance, like Vitality was one of the teams who are going to be there, having such a talented team in that, and for him already leaving the NA scene, it's like, why would I join an already struggling team when I'm regarded as probably the best team in Europe right now heading into Worlds?
Because Vitality are one of the top 3 teams in terms of pro points. He'll probably have a better run with Vitality, and also the fact that he's had success with Tommy and Madcat, who are both players on the roster at the moment on Epsilon, and then they've got the addition of Joe, who is an outstanding up and coming player that you'll hopefully get to see that at MLG Worlds. Right. So it's to the point where I think he's much better off staying with them. I mean, potentially come Black Ops 3, this may all change. Obviously, who knows? But obviously, at the moment, I don't see it happening, especially with there being no kind of MLG league or anything confirmed for Black Ops 3. Nothing really confirmed.
I don't know. I still feel like the main competition is still always going to be in North America for Call of Duty. So I mean,
I'm not
he might be doing great on Vitality, and they're more than likely a fantastic team. They did just win DreamHack, like you said. But I don't know if I feel like if I had the opportunity to make the switch over to where the main scene is at, just like look at any other scene. If you're in America and you're on a sort of you're on a great team in the US, but you got offered to join, something in Europe for CS, one of the top teams for Europe. you probably make, especially with something like OpTic. I guess it's a little different because it's like a big organization and a lot, an opportunity to make this your full-time commitment if it's not already.
My thing is that it's the last event though. Like it would be different. I could totally agree with you if it was like middle beginning, but it's like the last event. So one could probably just leave Vitality if they don't do good at Worlds. Like
here's the thing too, as far as that goes, right? Moving to NA is a big commitment. You got to leave your family. You got to leave whatever you're doing over there, right? And if you're gonna come to America and be a T12 team or a T8 team, isn't it better to stay in Europe and be a T1 team and win the $10,000 prize pool instead of that's what I'm saying, right?
That's a good point. I mean, that's a good point.
You could say salary here, but again, not too many teams.
When you're turning up to a 20K event and only 6 teams are there, you can be sure as hell you're staying in the EU. But I think the time is right. Come the start of Black Ops 3, when some structure and events and leagues or whatever get announced, I think then maybe is the time. But like Josh says, I completely have to think of the fact that kind of some of the reasons he's come back in the past, especially with the Epsilon situation, is to do with where he's living. He went from the TK house to the OpTic house and jumping about, and it wasn't a viable situation. Also, you got visas to sort out. That was a big thing with the TCM guys. But yeah, I'm not saying that I'm not trying to take words out of his mouth, because I'm sure he has aspirations to definitely go back out there as an opportunity arises. I think that now would just not be the right kind of moment to do that.
Yeah, it definitely would make sense for him to stay in Vitality. I'm just saying, like, it depends for other people. Like, it depends on your situation. It might be better to go to OpTic Nation, especially if you're someone that makes content or do for a player. Or if you're having trouble transitioning from making it your full-time commitment. Going to a team like OpTic would not be bad.
Okay, so let's take Epsilon for example, right? Do you think someone on Epsilon would leave to go to OpTic Nation? Because you got to consider a lot of those players went really
now.
This weekend.
Oh no.
Yes.
No, not now.
I don't know.
It depends on if they're thinking long term. I feel like if they're thinking long term, it could be an option. But
I'd rather stay. If I were an Epsilon player in NA, I'd rather stay on Epsilon right now. After placing third at Season 3 playoffs and surprising everyone, I'd rather not risk it and shake things up by going as a player of 1 to a struggling team of 3.
It's like though. Valuable. It's like for any players. By the way, I have something to talk about just after I say this. If you're a player that's thinking about going to OWIN, you have to be thinking, at least for right now, long term. Like, you're not like, oh my gosh, OpTic Nation, let's do great at Worlds. Like, probably not. But you're thinking, I'm making a long term decision in the long run because say my team's not doing well, which leads me to this. My player that I said I'm watching out for could be Nameless. Someone tweeted me and said Nameless took pro player for TK out of his bio. I know Fox is close to TK, but I don't think Fox has any intel for us. Hopefully, but if he does, well, he'll put it in the Skype for us right now. But Nameless, I did check his Twitter.
It's still there, and even if I had intel,
if you refresh his TweetDeck, you will see that it's no longer in his bio.
Oh my lord!
So I just checked it. I just checked.
So precise.
I'm not trying to be weird or anything.
Oh, you're
but
right.
He did take it out of his bio. So
it's now or never
on stream. What? I don't know what that was.
Landon's so happy.
I'm acting like
right. He's like, I got it right.
But still,
breaking news, everybody, right here.
Right, I know.
Landon can officially announce that someone took something out of their bio.
I'm not gonna tweet that out, but if something were to happen, but like I said, Burns just tweeted out. He was like, "Rostermania incoming." He might know something, and I might be DMing him right now. Not really. Either way, so possible options for OWIN could be someone like Nameless, a BAL player.
OpTic, that would actually be very good for OWIN if that happened. Now, I don't think and Nameless and Bose have teamed together before on Unite, right? Is that what it was?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that would be a good fit. It's just he doesn't slay nearly as much as Moch would is the only issue. But I mean, if they need a BAL player, we can just see how it works. Maybe Mir can step up his role as a slayer.
But again,
I feel like OWIN. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, but we aren't sure if OWIN's done with changes yet. You know what I mean? Like, even if Nameless comes in, I'm not saying he is. We don't really know anything. You know what I mean? Nameless comes in. Let's say we don't know that that's done as far as changes. There's a month until the event. Obviously, teams aren't going to be wanting to change the roster a week before the event, but we've seen crazier things happen. If Nameless was to do that, it'd probably be a good move for him. He's really starting to pump up his content on YouTube. TK really didn't do great this weekend and haven't been doing so well. Will he fit the role Moch was playing? No, but adjustments, could they be made? Probably.
They could
Sorry
be thinking.
to cut you off, by the way.
No, you're absolutely fine. He could be thinking long term as well. You know, we have one event for AW, we have another event for Black Ops 3. TK, I mean, it was a little bit different back then, but still, you could be thinking long term for different players. Black Ops 3 is not going to be the same thing as AW. A lot of things could be coming in attack. But I also got to say, I feel like OpTic Nation right now is that they'll take kind of like what they can get. Like they're going to realize, you know what, we can't get, and maybe they can, but if I'm OpTic Nation right now, I'm looking at who's a player that we have chemistry with, who is a player that fits our roles, and who would work. Not who is going to be who is our main option right now is basically like you can kind of cut that out. Like Clayster, Formal, like Aqua, Octa, like you can kind of just kind of throw those out the window for right now. I would kind of just like look at what you have, look at the options that you have in front of you, and kind of focus on different players. I think Nameless could be one of those. And maybe he was just reformatting his profile. Who knows? A lot of things come into play when talking about OpTic Nation. But that was just one of the many things that has happened this week. And a lot of players who are also mentioning this, and kind of what Fox was kind of talking about earlier, is Apathy. Apathy also announced that he has officially left Rise, now leaving Rise, looking for one for Worlds, and Apathy also going to be a free agent. Kind of unfortunate, to be honest. Rise has looked good at times. I've honestly liked the recent pickups that they've had. I think Burns and App are two great players, two players that they needed. But apparently it's not working out. Was this a surprise for you guys? Did you think that Rise would be making changes? Because I thought, honestly, they would just have one more event, ride it out to Worlds, and then all the changes would kind of break down.
Rise hasn't been able to keep a stable roster for months now. They are losing and receiving everyone.
It's like lasted one event.
Yeah. Oh, man. I feel bad. That must be a headache to run, dude.
Rise is one of those. That's
like
something too. The Rise
in England, a bed and breakfast. You know, they just come for bed and breakfast, and then they just move on to the next one.
Yeah, dude. I'd start breaking out contracts or something. That would stress me out.
Rise is one of those teams you don't really think about too much either. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a name that comes to mind when you're talking about top COD teams, and it really hasn't been for it all year, to be honest.
Early on in Advanced Warfare, we saw Chino doing a whole lot for them in 5Ks and 2Ks and stuff like that. And then you know the 18+ events came around, and they also started underperforming at the same time, and it just Rise kind of
they did
fell off.
MES, but that was kind of their peak.
Yeah, I mean MES they did well, but that's also wasn't a major event, and not the top competition wasn't really there. Also, wasn't it Epsilon that didn't even have all 4 of their players? No, Envy didn't have all 4 of their players.
They had Merc fell in.
Yeah.
I don't know. A team, if we can bring it up, I'd like to talk about is TCM, because I don't know. I suspect that this roster is going to shake up. I don't know. I could be completely wrong. They could stay together to the end of the MLG Worlds and the end of Advanced Warfare, but I don't know. This team's not clicking. It hasn't really been from day one. It's been another team kind of like Rise that you don't really classify.
And they got beat by OpTic Nation, like the one.
But it doesn't make sense for them to really split, right?
That was the first. To be fair, that was also the first time that Owens ever beaten TCM on LAN, and it was with their newest roster.
Okay,
that's gonna go in their bio.
No, not ever. I'm sorry. I keep saying ever. Ever is not true because I haven't looked that far back. But the past 2 times these 2 teams have met up on LAN, Owen never beat them until now.
Yeah. I don't really think. Okay, if they did split up, I don't know where some of those players would go. Like, okay,
the only reason I say it is because obviously it's a very complicated roster because you've got a British organization with Jerd, an Irish player, with obviously STiKS and TP, who are a duo who could easily be snapped up by another team as kind of a package. And then Fears is kind of, for me, the weak link. I don't know. I know anything could happen. They could easily stay together as much as they could easily make a roster change if other teams start making changes. But obviously with Rise and ON already needing players, we're bound to see other teams kind of fold into it as well. From the looks of things as well, Prophecy, Ollie are trying to get a roster together for Worlds potentially, from what I've seen on Twitter. So there's no kind of knowing what could happen. Obviously now with no MLG league, we're not going to see kind of potentially them top 12 teams necessarily be there. They could easily be snapped up by other teams.
Yeah. Whoa, hold on. Replays just tweeted something out here.
Oh god.
Oh,
this is not real. This is not real.
You're gonna relay information or
replays? I'm officially not a part of Denial anymore. I've decided to leave the team. I don't want to hold the players back.
I'm tweeting right now too, goalie. Don't worry.
Dude, why, man? The events come. Why gamble, man? Why gamble?
And I think replays is good on.
He's saying he doesn't want to hold the players back, but
he doesn't, because replays is such a big asset to that team. You've got who?
Wow, everyone just put at the exact same time.
That need a player like replays.
I mean, is it going to be just like last time though, where he joins back like 2 minutes later?
Left,
you know what I mean?
Denal's technically taken him off their roster. This is like the first time he's announced I'm leaving. Like this is
for the 4th time.
Oh god.
And then Robbie tomorrow will turn around. It's a mistake.
It's something else, man. It is something else.
So there's another roster change.
Let's, now this has happened. Let's take it. Well, why don't we look into this and see exactly why he thinks he was holding them back? You guys want to maybe go over his performance recently there with the events at with denial and everything? As I stumble all over that easy sentence.
I mean, I think like he's not like honestly like looking at hardcore objective players because like in this game, and I mention this a lot. It's like I feel. For instance, support players are kind of like split up. Like you have 2 support players, you have 2 other positions, most likely slayers. The 2 support players kind of divide that objective role. Replays is one of the only players who hardcore focuses on the objective type of thing. And he does a great job. He averages around a 0.98, 0.97 KD. I don't necessarily think he holds his team back. I just think that they have certain struggles. Their team just doesn't work all the time. I feel like
it's like what you said about Clayster. Clayster brings so much more to the game. Yes, Clayster is incredibly talented with an AR and does so much in terms of skill-wise, but I think replays bring so much more to that team because you have young players like Hook and Temp who, yes, they've done absolutely outstanding, but they need a player like replays who has that experience, has that, that ability to kind of spread his knowledge in scenarios that maybe these young players haven't been in at LAN. Like for God's sake, he won COD champs. Yeah, he's not holding players back.
He's not new.
I can't agree with that.
Yeah, I'm not really liking this move. I mean, I feel like he's comparing himself to his teammates, and you really can't compare yourself to Temp, who has not gone below a 1.0 KD at any event this year. Hook and Slasher are also very well known to be good slayers within their weapon role, and it's just you can't compare yourself to that. Especially because I'm actually looking at I just now pulled up DC. I'm looking at this right now. He is an objective player by the very definition. Like that is what Replays has been doing consistently throughout a lot of advanced warfare. You can look at any event
expect to like drop big numbers and like do the objective as well. It makes no sense.
I think I interviewed him. I don't remember who did, but Replays before has already talked about how this team has decided to change how they play. Like they just want Replays to focus more on getting on those hills, or just throwing his body on there. Let Hook and Temp and Slasher go around and get the kill, the multi kills and everything they need. So they've obviously formed their chemistry to play a part. Keep that into account. I don't know, man. I feel like going from second to having an off event isn't really a reason to think you
rushed.
Are holding the team back.
He should have slept on it. Like honestly, I get they haven't played today, but like I think he should have slept on it. Really kind of thought it through. That's what annoys me about some of these roster changes. Like Machilla announcing straight after they pretty much lost his free agency. If these players just kind of took a moment kind of to get out of the venue, have a little think, kind of relieve the stress and anger that they obviously built up from losing because no one wants to lose. I think sometimes we could maybe rectify these problems.
Yeah, someone posted his KDs in the last couple of chat. Thank you, Akimbo Jimbo. He kind of listed the KDs: 0.95 at Dallas, 0.94 at DC, and it's 0.81 at Season 3 playoffs, which isn't a very good. 0.8 is not what you want, but 0.9 is not a bad KD for a hardcore objective player. Your objective is to not get kills, so for you barely going negative, I'm not at all mad about that. Like, and for him to be, no, oh god, that wouldn't surprise me, but. I gotta say, I'm a big fan of Chris. For those who don't know, Replays. I talked to him a little bit at DC. He is like one of the nicest guys like that you're going to meet, and I feel really bad for him. With whatever's happened and whatnot, he's a fantastic player, and he takes a lot of flack. I'm not just saying that, but he takes a lot of flack. All objective players, as everyone knows, take a crazy amount of hate. Like even Karma just happens to be one of those who are kind of just out there for the picking since you're on OpTic Gaming.
Getting used, right? Yeah,
exactly. So I feel bad for him. I hope he does find a roster because he is a fantastic player, and has showed a lot of time. I think at Gfinity he had like a 1.34 KD, which is like, if you let the guy slay, like watch what happens. But we'll see what happens. There's a lot of stuff to go on, and Replays is just one of the many players who are affected by Rostermania, I guess. So kind of unfortunate, but a lot of changes to be made. I'm sure some more stuff will be announced tonight, but we'll see. But moving on, kind of to our next thing, I'm kind of going off of the denial and apathy, or denial and Replays, apathy and Rise talk. Kind of talking a little bit about Isolation Empire. They did, and I'm not going to focus on this for too long. They did say Llama and I believe Llama and Silly both kind of said that they are free agents. They kind of went back and said they're not really. It was just a joke. Come on now, like let's be real here. It's not how you do it.
I can't even. I don't understand that, man. Why would you even do that? Like
it's unprofessionalism, man.
That's one of those jokes that. Sorry, go ahead.
It's unprofessionalism. It's just one of those things in the COD community, right? I don't know too much about those players as far as their ages go, but that just shows like the maturity level of the people in the community. Like, first of all, I hate the fact that people announce roster changes on Twitter in the first place.
Yeah.
It should be a proper press release on, the official team should be the ones telling everyone, not all this BS.
Players,
but why do you tweet that stuff? And if you decide you're gonna leave a team, and then you say it's a joke, chances are there's something going on there. Either you made a haste decision really quick and changed your mind, or you're just an idiot. I don't know which one it is, but I don't know.
Well, or social media, like for instance, the Call of Duty community is so heavily based on Twitter. Like you look at, for instance, like other popular esports players, they don't even compare to like Call of Duty players' Twitters because of how involved we are on Twitter. And I'm not like hating because I know jokes come into play, but it looked so real that it was like I would have just looked at that, tweeted out, and just walked away. Like had I not been staring at Twitter, I would have never known, and neither would have. I'm sure there's still a lot of people who are so confused about that it's like they have no idea what's going on. I've seen Mochilla hanging out with ISO. Like that could have been a possible option. Like it kind of set it up for someone's being dropped, and it looks like it could be this. Like there was a lot of things, but still shouldn't do it. I understand jokes, but still it's
just dumb.
Do it
it's
on
just
Facebook.
It's just dumb stuff that comes from the COD community, unfortunately. But
unfortunately, man, we'll see what happens. I believe. Wait, did someone else just tweet out? Hold on.
Oh God.
Hold on.
No, stop it.
Get your tweet decks ready.
I think Fears may be a free agent, but I'm not sure.
I think he just asked who the free agents are.
Well, the way he's talking, it seems like it could be.
By the time this is up, there's going to be so many roster changes. I feel sorry for people watching this on YouTube because they're going to be like screaming at us, being like, "They made this change. How could you not bring this up?"
Dude, everyone's already
sorry. It's pre-recorded.
Parasite joined OpTic Nation 3 times. How did you guys not mention that? Like, how's that? Just kidding.
He's already done it once.
Kind of the final.
Because Spears tweeted out 12 minutes ago who's a free agent. So I don't know if he was just trying to find out and like see what's going on, or if it's because he's going to need somewhere to go. Don't really know.
We'll see what happens. There's a lot of stuff to go on tonight. There's going to be a lot of things possibly going on with the next couple of days. So the last thing to talk about, obviously, the old men of OpTic are looking for 2. Fwiz and Hex tweeting out that they are looking for a team.
Did you miss it? Sensor and Unet are having a team as well for World.
Sensor and Unet as well. They could combine. I did give them a little bit of an option.
He tweeted it out. I don't know.
No.
I mean, I have the shirt already. I have the jersey. I'm a 19 SMG Slayer. I'm ready to win. So if Hex does watch this, I know he watches the streams a little bit. I'm down. I'm down to play.
Sensor is coming back for Blops 3 though.
I did see that Deserto interview as well.
Yeah.
Sensor making his point that he will be returning with Unet. No.
Mascot.
There's a storyline right there. That will get COD viewers. Now we're talking.
Yeah. I really want to, on just like a quick sign up, I really want to see a female Call of Duty player really break out. I know, especially in like the UK scene, like the female scene is really growing. It's you probably don't even know, but like I'd really love, that'd be a great story just to kind of put to bed those stories we had like midway through the year about COD being sexist.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that we really had recently was like TK Royal. I know Dream Crazy still plays a bit, and there's not really too many well-known females competing at higher levels, unfortunately. Just kind of how it is. That's kind of how it is in esports as a whole. It's not even a COD esports thing specific.
Oh yeah,
it's just esports.
It's only really
the first
CS:GO that's got its own leagues and stuff.
The first female player just qualified for for the LCS, which is League of Legends Champion Series, probably weeks ago.
Yeah, I think I was actually talking to Goalie about that not too long ago. It was really cool. I'm really happy to see not just guys, but also women making an impact. We could see something else happen as well. Hopefully in the future, maybe we'll see some outstanding female Black Ops 3 players. I know that Goalie is very talented, and just kidding. As I get kicked and DDoSed from the Skype call. All right, I'm just kidding, Goalie. But no, I think that's gonna kind of do it. Unless anyone would like to make a final remark about anything, I think we're kind of done. I think we did a pretty good job. High fives.
Yeah, I mean, something else big that happened this weekend was Dexerto being banned from the Dexerto content being banned from the COD competitive subreddit. That's a pretty big deal.
Fox, would you like to touch on that? We have all the time in the world.
I just wanted to know if you guys wanted to talk about that. I don't know if you guys looked into it at all.
I'm good. I have not. I heard about it.
Well, I mean, there's not a whole lot to it. It's just kind of Dexerto was getting really spammy with their content. Reddit as a website has like very strict, they're not even very strict, just very specific self-promotion rules. Yeah, and they Dexerto felt that they were above those rules, and the moderators completely banned their content as a whole from the subreddit, from both the OpTic Gaming subreddit and COD competitive subreddit. So those are that's like our hubs right now, aside from Twitter, that Dexerto would have access to continue growing. You know, when something gets posted to a subreddit, it's guaranteed lots of views, and that's why Dexerto was doing that.
It's honestly not that hard too, right? So it's a 3-to-1. It's a setup, so you could post one self-promotion thing for every 3 other posts you put up, and it's like compared to normal Reddit, that is like really good. And it's funny to me, right? Because like we used to have an Esports Nation account on the Reddit that we used, and it's hard to undo that because you don't want to put anything unprofessional up as a subreddit, you know what I mean, or as a post. So it's like it's hard because what are you going to talk about? Replays tweets that he had Chipotle today. You know what I mean? But when you have a personal account, it's like you could basically put up anything. Put up a video like Sharp posted this on YouTube. I think it's funny. You know what I mean? And so I just don't understand how I don't know. It's whatever.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate because I think even the mod team, both mod teams, sort of recognized that Dexerto was putting out the most COD Esports content of a lot of the other organizations, and most of it is pretty good, I think. And people really enjoy it, but they were just getting a bit spammy with it. And by a bit spammy, I mean exclusively only promoting their own content, and that was just not okay with them. So they were, of course, banned from the subreddits, and it's definitely unfortunate because I was hoping to see them really grow in our community a lot more than that. But I mean, I'm sure they're going to continue putting out their own content. I'm sure they could also maybe work something out with the mod team where they clean up what they were doing and really just start to follow the rules and such. But we'll see.
Rules are rules. Rules are rules. You gotta abide by them, whether or not you like them or not. They are rules, and they're put in place for you to obey them. So, darn you, Mike. I'm just kidding. I love Mike. But this is kind of unfortunate. I gotta say, I want to be verified on the COD competitive Reddit. So, if anyone watches this who is a part of it, that's all I'm gonna say. So, with that, I think is that everything? Because we can keep going. Tommy can stay up till 4.
Can I go to bed?
That's fine. Any other topics that anyone would like to talk about? Because this is just a free reign show right now. We're just having a creative discussion. I'm not liking it. 3, 2. All right.
Oh, okay. I got one more thing. I have to bring it up. Okay.
Okay.
So I watched the show the last time you guys had one where you discussed the 18+ thing for potentially for Call of Duty, right?
Oh, this could be a couple hours.
I am like I have to go against this here. Am I the only one in the world who thinks maybe an 18+ for Call of Duty may be a good thing?
I think it's gonna be a great thing. I made a video about this as well because I wasn't on the show. I made my own video about it. I think it's gonna be a great thing. I prefer it to be 17+, just like LCS, and I'm pretty sure that's how CS:GO and everything is as well with ESL. I prefer 17+, but I think an age restriction is good because it'll bring in more sponsors and more investment into the community and everything.
I think it's good for maturity and professionalism, right?
Yeah,
I don't mind if it's 16 even or 17, honestly, but they need to guarantee and commit to finishing their education. That's what it is for League anyway, right? So you could be 17 and play in the LCS as long as you commit to finishing your high school degree. You don't have to go to college or anything. but you have to, commit that, okay, I'll even finish high school online or whatever. I think that's good. Because, at that age, if you're dropping out of high school for Call of Duty, there's an issue.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But I honestly think going 18 plus would be the best thing that Call of Duty could do if it wants to move forward as a serious contender.
It's also mentioned contracts and stuff too. More organizations can move towards contracts instead of them, not wanting to do it because they can't really hold a 16-year-old or a 14-year-old to a contract.
And it's so hard too because it's like what the parents get involved and have to sign, and it's a pain. It's a pain, you know what I mean? And it's so hard to hold them to it because it's but oh god, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Go for it, man. You got the mic. What's your beef?
No, I completely forgot.
Oh no!
I was gonna add it really quick. The only reason that when we were on the show, and I know Grumpy Gamer, Epsilon Grumpy Gamer was on here as well, kind of just talking about it, was for me it wasn't just like players; it also does involve spectators as well. I would say like a lot of the events, for those who do go to them, if you haven't, I would definitely recommend you do so. But a lot of the spectators are under the age of 18. You can kind of cut that in half. I wouldn't say that you say cut in half, but you can kind of eliminate a lot of the younger players or the younger fans who like to come to these events. And I gotta say, I love seeing younger kids come with their parents. It's a great thing because their parents are getting involved. They're seeing what their kids are involved with as well, which they like enjoying. So with that, I feel kind of bad for the fact that if the age gap does 100% come into play. But I would like 17 plus, 16 plus. At least if we remain with how Advanced Warfare was. I think if it would have been any other title, everyone would be like, it's not that big of a deal. It's this one especially. It's
important to note too the age gap between Call of Duty and a game that's really popular right now like Counter-Strike. The last major event was ESL1 Cologne for Counter-Strike. It was around a few weeks ago, close to a month. The youngest team there had a minimum age of 21.8 years old. And then you look at Call of Duty, and I don't know exact numbers, but if I had to guess, I would say the youngest team in Call of Duty is probably like 15.8 or maybe 16. You know what I mean?
It's like Orbit or something. Yeah.
It shows the difference in how our players act on Twitter as far as maturity and professionalism goes. I mean, we just saw it today with ISO. You could tweet out you're leaving a team; it really doesn't matter.
If you put it in perspective, it makes sense though because of how far along in development and establishment other esports are. Let's be honest. Like in terms of the developer support they get, literally the developers run stuff like League, whereas it's just not the case in Call of Duty. I get that we compare other esports because that's what we go off of, but we are a completely separate esport in ourselves, and obviously the way we grow and the way we develop will vary to different esports. But I totally get where you're coming from.
No, I understand that. You know what I mean? It's one of those back and forth things because I feel awful for players like Hook or players like TJ Haley who would be affected by it. You know what I mean? And obviously, it would suck for them long term for a few years, but eventually they'd be able to get back into it if they were still, a top level player. The big thing is there needs to be some type of in-game ranking system that would help those players continue playing. When you look at Counter-Strike or you look at League of Legends, you're in the Masters division. It doesn't matter how old you are. You may not be able to play LCS, but you're still in the Masters division. You'll get your name out there, and then when you do turn 16 or 17, you'll be able to get on a team. And for COD, it's not really like that besides, online tournaments that you have to pay to play in. Obviously ranked play in Black Ops 2 is a start towards that, but I mean, it wasn't taken as a serious competitive thing for a lot of people.
I think that there are 100% positives to the 18 plus rule, and I think there are, as many people could obviously argue, there's negatives too. I think a lot of things that people will kind of relate to is the fact of, and I will as well, is not coming from the other side, but I feel like I'm more kind of siding with the players a little bit on the fact of younger side of things rather than thinking of a future. But you got to look like Black Ops 1, Modern Warfare 2, the amount of young players that we have in our scene today. If that rule would have came into play, if we would have started off Call of Duty Esports 18 plus, I mean, no offense, but you can kind of guarantee a lot of the main players we have today wouldn't be here. A lot of them would be probably doing different things, whether it's trying other esports or even just not playing esports at all, or trying to play Call of Duty but not on a competitive level. I understand, and what other people would say is a great thing moving forward, and I completely agree. But it's like for one, starting off and seeing the JCaps, the Scumps, the young players that we have today or the young players who then are like main players today, we can kind of put that in half and say these guys probably wouldn't be here. A large amount of our scene wouldn't be here if we would have started off with that rule too.
But it goes with any type of game or sport or whatever that comes out. When something is first started, you have minimal restrictions because you want to get as many people involved off the bat as possible and get it off the ground. After that, you start adding in more rules to help with the business side of things and help with player safety and all that type of stuff. And over time, rules need to be added to protect the players, protect the organizations. And obviously, if we were to talk about a player union, we'd be here until midnight. And I don't really want to get into all of it, but it just adds a level of security to organizations that want to come in.
No.
I mean, you look at who was it? Oh, Cloud9 Jack, the owner of Cloud9. He came to UMG or not UMG DC, UMG Cali, and he talked about
TSM guy.
Well, TSM too. TSM didn't come to an event, but he talked about picking up a COD team, and if it's all players who are 16, those orgs aren't going to come in and want to sign players like that because you can't hold them accountable for anything. You have to hold their parents accountable, and what are you going to do? You're going to take not a 90-year-old, sorry. You're going to take like a 40-year-old to court over their 15-year-old kid playing Call of Duty? I mean, I don't know. I just think 18 plus may be a good thing for the scene going forward. And obviously there's downsides to anything, but I just wanted to bring it up and, have a little discussion about it.
Absolutely.
I think it makes perfect sense. I mean, do you remember that? Was it Modern Warfare 2 with the mission of where there was no Russian when they were in the elevator and they shot everybody? Remember how big of a deal that was in the game? Especially with the way America is right now and the whole outrage community. Like, if people are quick to turn something on to saying, oh yeah, that's just video games and music and movies promote so much violence. You got these little 16-year-olds killing people for $100,000 over. People relate those two things all the time, and no one wants to be held accountable for that. Which is why I think companies like Samsung and a bunch of other companies don't get involved with esports, specifically COD esports as well.
Right.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see that.
Like you guys said, it kind of close this a little bit. I know Tommy has to get to bed here soon. I know he's drifting away, but like we said, there's positives and negatives to everything. We could talk about this. We could talk about the major positives to this for a long time. We could also talk about the downsides and stuff. But I have to agree, there are some great things that can come if it does happen. Obviously, it's not ESL hasn't came out and said, "Hey, we're doing this 100%." Does it look like it? Yeah, but we'll see. Obviously, there are more episodes and more things to be talked about on the STiKS, and I honestly think if it wasn't for the amount of young players that did come through Advanced Warfare, there would be a lot of less negatives that people would kind of focus on since of kind of all these recent players, specifically like Hook, TJ, all these guys coming up recently, and Temp as well. So with that, I think that's finally going to do it for the STiKS Live tonight. We've had some great talks. I've honestly really enjoyed this episode. It's been pretty chill. We've had a lot of good times, and I've been enjoying the amount of people that we've had in the chat tonight as well. And with that, we're going to go and give our outros. You can give a shout to your sponsors. You can give a shout out to whoever you want to, really, and kind of shout your own content as well if you'd like. So 30 seconds or less, whatever you want to say. And I'm going to start off with Mr. Tommy. Then I'm going to go to Josh, and then to Fox, and I will close it out myself. So Tommy, if you would be so kind to kind of give your outro. Hopefully you don't fall asleep while you're doing it, but we'll see what happens.
Nah, I'm still here. We're good. My name's been Tommy. Thank you for watching. We really do appreciate it. Obviously, a little bit different doing it kind of straight after the actual event. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Shout out to all the fans. You are the real MVPs. You're the people that keep esports going. Yeah, see you later. I'm going to go to bed. Toodles.
I'm getting ready to fall asleep. Josh?
Thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it. I haven't really been on a talk show in probably a year or more since we stopped doing late night. I want to shout out to everyone watching the stream. You guys are the reason why, everyone who does the STiKS does it, and anyone who does anything in COD does it. Thank you for those of you who follow Esports Nation. I appreciate it. Thanks for supporting our coverage, and shout out to Scuff and G Fuel. Thanks for having me again, guys.
Yeah. Mr. Foxy.
Hey, thank you all so much for stopping by today. I'm Fox TK. I'm a caster, Team Caliber director, and I also do lots of great YouTube stuff on my channel, Fox TK, and on MLG TV where I live stream. So if you want to check out some of that content, feel free. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. Immediately after the event, I'm sure you've had a long day of watching Call of Duty and and then you got to hear us talk about it for 2 hours straight. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you very much for that. Hope you guys enjoyed the show.
Absolutely, guys. It's been your dude, your bro, your pal, your man, your ally on the internet. It's been Landon, guys. Thank you so much for coming out to the show today. Thank you to STiKS fam for, like we said, kind of tanking it, watching Call of Duty all day and then continuing to watch our show. We've had a great time. Shout out to the STiKS fam on Twitter, or not Twitter, on Twitter, on MLG, there we go, and YouTube. We really do appreciate all your guys' support. And yeah, we're not going to have a show Monday. We're going to kind of advance through, let this week kind of roll out, and we'll be back next Monday for our next episode. So I do make YouTube content, though. You guys can find me. Just type in Airlanded on YouTube, and you'll find it. I stream every once in a while, and you might be seeing me and a couple of the other STiKS fam at Worlds coming up, which we'll be kind of making STiKS episodes about later on. So, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. We'll see you guys next week, and hope you all have a wonderful night, day, morning, wherever you are. See you guys later. Peace out. Boop.
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 Uh